in Konoha, starting by unlocking the Tenseigan. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author, we're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 76 Gifts for Each Other. In a mansion in Konoha's Uchiha clan territory, Hyūga Teru, returning with a large harvest, was playing with Minato Pikachu alongside Hyūga Natsu. Seeing Minato Pikachu bury himself in Hyūga Natsu's arms, Hyūga Teru felt as if he had made the right choice. Master, what's its name? And it only calls Pikachu, Pikachu? What a strange summoning beast. It doesn't actually have a name yet, but its outfit is modeled after the Fourth Raikage. How about we give it a name related to the Fourth Raikage? As for whether it was a summoning beast, even if Hyūga Teru said it wasn't, there was no way to explain it. This thing seemed impossible to disassemble, its design was incredibly complex. A perfect misinterpretation as a summoning beast was quite something. Hyūga Natsu rolled her eyes, slowly brightening. How about calling it Little Fourth? It does look a lot like the Fourth Raikage. Hyūga Natsu couldn't help but pinch Pikachu's cheek, picked it up, and stared at Minato Pikachu with amazement. Hyūga Teru was a little speechless. Calling him Zyabo, Zyafeng, Zyashu, or Zyomen would all be fine. But in the end, he ended up calling him Zyosi, which was a bit too lowbrow, wasn't it? How about calling him Zyabo? I think Zyabo is quite appropriate for Dabo now. Hyūga Shia was a little confused at first, but when she looked down at the dizzy Pikachu buried in her arms, she suddenly understood a little. After all, she was already pregnant and had already learned a huge amount of knowledge. She understood Hyūga Teru's hints immediately. She was immediately ashamed and angry. Master, you are so mean. You are making fun of Zyaksha again. If you call it Zyabo, it doesn't have waves. How about calling it Zyahorong? Oh, Zyahorong sounds a bit like a dog. How about calling it Zyagwong? It's a golden flash. Calling it Zyajin is a bit too earthy. Zyagwong is quite suitable. After listening to what Hyūga Teru said, Hyūga Shia nodded in agreement. Zyagwong is indeed quite good, but didn't you say there were other gifts, Master? Where are they? Hyūga Teru said mysteriously, carrying a massive scroll from the house to the courtyard. Look here, while we have plenty of these, the more the better. We could even try to make beds out of them. Are they made of wood? Hyūga Natsu immediately guessed they were. Hyūga Teru shook his head and immediately cast a summoning technique. Just keep your eyes open, and don't be too surprised. Summoning technique. Hyūga Teru slapped his hand against the massive scroll, and he vanished in an instant. Suddenly, a mountain of banknotes filled the courtyard. This was Kokuzu's money, which he had exchanged for 1,000 ryo denominations at several locations. But as the sheer size of the money indicated, the sheer quantity was enormous. The total value was a whopping 20 billion ryo. The reason 20 billion was just right was mainly because Kokuzu was a dishonest person. Had the bank manager not let slip, Hyūga Teru would have been completely unaware of the vast amount of weapons and antiques stored there. The resulting sale value is estimated at over 10 billion ryo. He was practically ready to sell Kokuzu off. Kokuzu had a total of 30 billion ryo in deposits. Though annoyed, Hyūga Teru kept his word and took 20 billion ryo, leaving 10 billion for Kokuzu. After all, there was still time to go. He then secretly had Minato Pikachu place the Flying Thunder God mark on Kokuzu, and immediately returned to Konoha with Sasori. Now, he could show off his wealth to Hyūga Natsu. Hyūga Natsu was genuinely stunned, eyes filled with shock. Oh my god, so much money, it's piled up like a mountain. How much money is there, sir? Hyūga Teru emerged from the mountain of money and pulled Hyūga Natsu in. Pikachu was squashed and howled. But Hyūga Teru ignored it and pulled Hyūga Natsu to lie on the mountain of money. A total of 20 billion taels, far more than our family's total assets, 20 billion taels. Oh my goodness, Master, have you taken all the wealth accumulated by the clan over decades? Hyūga Teru patted her head and laughed. What are you thinking? Even if I wanted to, Uncle Hisashi wouldn't allow me to take so much. Besides, we don't spend a lot of money, So we can't spend it all. Hinata Natsu was puzzled. So, what are you planning to do? And such a huge sum, where did you get it? That's a bit outrageous, isn't it? Hyūga Teru smiled. Not at all, I just wanted you to experience the feeling of wealth. As for where it came from, don't worry about it. The money came from a legitimate source, so there will be no trouble. The only trouble was Kikuzu. But for Hyūga Teru right now, what kind of trouble was Kikuzu? Minato could be killed with a pickup truck, so even calling in pain wouldn't be much use, right? By the way, where's that surprise you mentioned? Why haven't you seen any sign of it yet? Did you forget, it was late afternoon? It wasn't the appointed time yet. But Hinata Natsu, always considerate, wouldn't have forgotten to make these arrangements in advance. But Hinata Natsu glanced at the sky before slowly speaking. It seems a little early, she might not be able to come yet. Which she? You just sent someone to me. Hinata Teru was a little surprised, even touching her forehead to see if she had a fever. Hinata Natsu couldn't help but take Hinata Teru's hand curiously. It's indeed a person. Aren't you upset about sending someone to me, master? Since Zyuoxia won't be able to take care of you for a while, of course I need to choose a capable mate for you. Come to think of it, she's quite pretty and approachable. Master, would you mind helping her out so she doesn't have such a hard time? Hinata Teru was a little bewildered. While he certainly hadn't planned to end things with Hinata Natsu, after all, this was another world, and monogamy wasn't strictly enforced, Hinata Natsu was a little too thoughtful, wasn't she? She even helped him choose a beautiful woman, telling him to take advantage of her. While that wasn't unheard of, it still felt quite surprising. Hinata Teru couldn't help but feel suspicious. Aren't you being a bit too generous? Although our clan is indeed qualified to do this, you yourself don't mind at all. Hinata Shia suddenly became a little annoyed. Of course I mind, but you definitely won't just be with Zyuoxia. After all, you are so physically strong, Zyuoxia can't handle it alone. Come to think of it, you often smell like other women. Instead of asking you to find someone you don't know and are difficult to get along with, it's better for Zyuoxia to choose someone you are more likely to get along with. By the way, this will also make you feel more comfortable during Zyuoxia's delivery. It's not really a strange thing. After all, I was chosen by Mr. Hayashi's wife, originally. I was going to take over the position of wife after your wife died, but fortunately I met you. Chapter 77 The Female Spy arranged by Danzo. Hinata Teru finally understood a lot. It turned out that Hinata Natsu's idea was not a sudden whim, but something she was used to. It was just that it was so thoughtful that it was a little unbelievable. However, Hinata Teru was not a hypocritical person. He could accept this affection for the time being. As for whether the woman would accept it or not, it was up to him. If she was not satisfied, she could just keep her distance. It would never be good to refuse. After all, Hinata Natsu herself was also trying to matchmake. At night, not long after dinner, as expected, someone rang the doorbell. Originally, Hinata Natsu was going to open the door, but Hinata Natsu rushed to him instead, so he had to go in awkwardly. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a familiar blonde woman and was stunned. Why is it you? Don't tell me you don't know Natsu at all. The person who came was Nono, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Logically, after parting in Kumagakure, the two of them should have had less and less interactions. Hinata Teru thought that the next time they met might be in another village. But he never expected her to show up in his own home. Nono, who still hasn't left the Anbu, was Danzo specifically arranging this. Nono immediately rolled her eyes at Hinata Teru. I've already left the organization, but I handed over all my money, so I have to work to supplement the family income. At this, Nono's temper immediately soured. Do you think I'm happy to come to you? If it weren't for your wife's repeated requests and the generous amount of money you have, I wouldn't have come. It sounded plausible, but what about Danzo paying the money? Was this just a deliberate act? Or was Danzo constantly monitoring Nono and aware of her daily income? Before she left the route, he deliberately demanded a large sum of money, forcing Nono to be restrained? Perhaps Nono had a specific purpose in approaching him. But, why did she come without changing her appearance? After all, she was a spy before. Wasn't she afraid he'd be wary of her? Or did she think he was already suspicious, so she'd forego the extravagant attire and come openly? Trying to use the surface of truth to confuse possible falsehoods, making it harder for him to make an accurate judgment? It was a little strange that Danzo hadn't contacted him. I hadn't expected him to plant a spy this way. It seemed the old man had no intention of letting him join the route. But no matter what, it was meaningless. After all, in the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were meaningless. Nono's entrance into his own home was nothing. With Minato and Pikachu to watch over him, and Ipika Itachi to protect him in the dark. Even if all the higher-ups showed up, they wouldn't harm Hinata Natsu in the slightest. As for Hyūga Teru, there was no need to worry. You're still as bad-tempered as ever. You didn't come before, but now my wife has asked you to, and you've agreed. Isn't that a bit strange? Nono remained irritated. It's because your wife asked me that I dared to come here. If I hadn't known she was pregnant and needed help, I wouldn't have dared come. Given your past disgusting behavior, I think only a woman bearing your child would make you stop thinking those things. I'm still a little worried you might be dishonest, but your wife is offering so much, I can't refuse. That's what Nono thought. It must be said that all of this made sense. But she probably never imagined that she was the woman Hinata had chosen for him. I wonder what she would think after hearing such news. Hyūga Teru suddenly found this quite amusing and couldn't help but laugh. Come in quickly, Ko-chan is waiting inside. I'll be bothering you more often, but you better behave yourself. Seeing Nona's somewhat irritated expression, Hyūga Teru chuckled inwardly. He suddenly understood why she was so close to Hyūga Teru. But Hyūga Teru was probably eager for him to make his move as soon as possible. He suppressed his smirk and walked inside. Come in if you want, there aren't any strangers anyway, Nono grumbled, feeling as though Hyūga Teru was reminding her of the past, hinting at their previous intimacy. However, this emotion subsided immediately in front of Hinata Natsu. It was as if he had become a completely different person. He seemed to treat everything with extraordinary tenderness, like an older sister, giving small gifts and showering her with attention. This stunned Hyūga Teru, who suddenly understood why Samu was so devoted to her. This was dangerous. To prevent Hinata Natsu from becoming a lesbian, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but touch her under the low table. His hand touched her, feeling smooth and warm, indescribably wonderful. But Nono, being touched, was no longer so calm, and her body trembled. What's wrong, Nono? Are you feeling unwell? Nono wanted to rush over and beat Hyūga Teru, but that would obviously expose their unclear relationship. Her cover might fail. The thought filled her with depression. While she had indeed withdrawn from the route, Danzo had already seized all her funds. She didn't know how the old man had managed it, but the amount she had to pay to withdraw was barely more than she had earned. She had truly withdrawn with nothing, and was practically the only one who had done so safely. But for the orphanage's funds, Danzo had also demanded that she remain with Hyūga Teru. He said he wanted to assess his character to determine if he was fit for the route. It was clearly surveillance, yet he spoke of it so refreshingly and elegantly. Nono was impressed by the old man. She was truly forced into a corner, but monitoring Hyūga Teru wasn't particularly dangerous. After all, their relationship was unclear. She could use this to her advantage. Even now, she felt a strong resentment towards Hyūga Teru's sexual advances, but thankfully, he hadn't gone too far, so she could still tolerate it. Nono quickly shook her head and gave Hyūga Natsu a reassuring smile. No, nothing. I just spent so much time helping Grandma with the tea leaves today that I'm exhausted. I need a break. Really? Then you should get some rest today. By the way, if you're going to take me to the orphanage in a few days, sister, I want to meet those children too. No, my shoulders seem a little sore. If you want to go, of course you can. Just come with me. Suddenly, one of her feet was dragged over, and a familiar feeling immediately reached her toes, letting her know what was happening. For a moment, she looked extremely panicked, but her years as a spy helped her regain her composure. She responded to Hinata Shia effortlessly while dealing with Hyūga Teru's misbehavior. Chapter 78, To Inhuman. Nono was a little confused. She really didn't expect Hyūga Teru to be so bold. Wasn't he worried that his wife would find out? What was this man thinking? It would be fine if he did it in private, but he actually did something bad under his wife's nose. Nono couldn't help but bite her cherry lips, frowning slightly. Hyūga Teru was very relieved. He held his chin with one hand and stared at Nono, while the other hand played restlessly. Sister, are you so tired today? How about I massage your shoulders? I'm free anyway. Hyūga Shia, who noticed a little, came behind Nono. At this time, she was facing Hyūga Teru. She couldn't help but glance at Hyūga Teru with a little resentment, and then began to massage Nono's shoulders seriously. Nono, who was unaware of the couple's tricks, passively enjoyed the wonderful massage journey. It must be said that the two of them used very steady techniques and strength. She slowly felt her body soften, yet a mixture of nervousness gave her an indescribable feeling of floating in the clouds. She had come to be a maid in a wealthy family, but ended up being served by both the host and the hostess. Thinking back on it, Nono still found it a bit strange. However, she was easy to get along with the women, so Hinata Natsu's behavior was not surprising to her. No matter how much she tried to refuse, she couldn't get over her persistence. As for Hyūga Teru's behavior, it made her heart burn with anger. This man was clearly a married man, yet he was actually doing something under his wife's nose. He was truly inhuman. Zyosha, I'm quite busy over there tonight, I have to go back first. I'll come here officially tomorrow. Hinata Natsu nodded without hesitation. Then you can go back first, sister. The road is quite dark, let the master take you. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but stand up and nodded. Yet, although Konoha is very safe, there are a lot of perverts at night, so I'd better take you there. No. I still can't. I came to your house to do some work, so how can I bother you? I can go back by myself. Although Yakashi Nono always maintained a reserved smile, she had killed Hyūga Teru over and over again in her heart. This man was really disgusting. She shouldn't have agreed to the request of that old sinister Danzo. But Hyūga Teru still stood up, walked to her side, and was about to help her up. Let's go. It's just a matter of walking a distance, it's not a big deal at all. You're so tired after coming from such a long distance, we would feel so sorry if something happened. Although Hinata was a little greedy, she felt that Hyūga Teru might have something to say, which was not convenient for her to say to Nono in front of her, and almost immediately tried to comfort her. Yes, sister, let the master take you there. If anything happens to you tonight, Zyosha will be sad. Seeing Hinata's pitiful and persistent look, Nono suddenly didn't know what to do. After all, the host and hostess were in agreement, and it would be a bit ungrateful if she disagreed. Okay. I can do it myself, don't be too polite, Nono said as she stood up. But one of her feet was numb and she stumbled almost as soon as she stood up. Fortunately, Hyūga Teru was quick-witted and quickly supported her. Let me go. I can do it myself. Nono's cheeks flushed with anxiety, and she quickly struggled to break free from Hyūga Teru's support. But Hyūga Teru's arms were like steel pliers, tightly clamping her arms. You can't even stand steadily, how can we be at ease? Let me carry you, so we don't get into trouble along the way. Without giving Nono a chance to react, Hyūga Teru turned his back, grasped Nono's hips with both hands, and forcefully lifted her onto his back. You can't do this. How can I let you carry me? Feeling her body rigidly pinned down, Nono felt both embarrassed and angry. She wanted to fight but couldn't, so she could only struggle fiercely, trying to break free. It's okay. We're ninjas, and honestly, your weight isn't even enough to give me a break. After Hyūga Teru stood up with Nono on his back, he turned to Hinata Natsu. Natsu, just wait for a while. The master will be back soon, okay? Hinata Natsu obediently handed her slippers and helped open the door, without a trace of complaint. Nono was amazed, knowing Hyūga Teru's character. She felt like her husband was having an affair with another woman, and not only did he not object, but he was completely supportive. What she couldn't have imagined was that this was actually the truth. But before she could even begin to think, Hyūga Teru was already carrying her out the door. The hand that held her hip was incredibly restless. Almost immediately after leaving the house, she began slapping and biting it in defiance. You bastard, you beast, why are you still going at it like before? If Zyosha knew, wouldn't she be heartbroken? It's such a tragedy that such a simple and kind girl ended up with a man like you. Hurry, let me go. What if people misunderstand me? Hyūga Teru smiled. So what if it's a misunderstanding? Your goal is better served by misunderstandings anyway, so why not continue with this? Although I don't know your situation, I don't believe you're here simply to make money. But whatever your motive is, I don't mind, but if you want to stay at my house, you need to satisfy some of my needs when Zyosha isn't looking. Otherwise, you can't stay here any longer. Nono was mortified and furious, nearly exploding. I don't know what you're saying. Could you please keep your hands still? I'm an innocent woman, after all. Can't you have a bit of moral integrity? Hinata snorted. Morality is based on mutual trust. If there's no trust between us, why should I be moral with you? Think about it carefully. If you can't stand me, then don't come to my house to work, Hinata said, setting her on the ground. After all, she was a female ninja. Her physical fitness might be a little less, but it was definitely much stronger than an ordinary person. The short distance was no difficulty for her, and the danger was not to be mentioned. So Hinata set her down quickly, not forgetting to pinch her before Hinata didn't touch her. As she stood on the ground, her eyes were filled with rage. Pervert, why didn't you die in that village? How can someone like you live so well? Hinata didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. People like me have lived so long because of my strength. Don't you have any idea? Why were you assigned to my side again? Come to think of it, if you weren't still of some use to me, do you think you could stay safe by my side? I think you really need to go back and think about why you are able to live by my side until now. Chapter 79. The mysterious instant kill man was killed instantly. Yakashi Nono was stunned. Suddenly, she recalled everything that had happened before. She remembered the very beginning, how she had set up a very dangerous trap for Hyūga Teru. Now, lurking around Hyūga Teru, she must have been a threat to him. No one would tolerate someone who had once wanted to kill them and might do so in the future. It was good that Hyūga Teru didn't kill her immediately. She was careless. Thinking of Hyūga Teru moving freely in the hidden cloud village, killing people like cutting vegetables, and even daring to kill under the nose of the Raikage, she felt a chill down her spine. She had thought she could rely on an ambiguous relationship to get away with it. She hadn't expected to be so strictly guarded. She had underestimated Hyūga Teru. But it was also because of Hyūga Teru's constant misconduct that she had let down her guard a little. After all, he was from her village, and he seemed to be very infatuated with her. But now she gradually understood that even if they were from the same village, she couldn't let her guard down. Danzo had previously used some means to monitor her bank account. Hyūga Teru's current vigilance against her was really a lesson for her. But no matter how aggrieved she is, she still has to bow to reality. After all, she is not alone. She still has an orphanage to run, and she has to make more money. After Nono understood, she suppressed her dissatisfaction and looked at Hyūga Teru with some apology. I'm really sorry, I didn't see the situation clearly. I will listen to you in the future. But, can there be a deal like before? When she said this, her face turned red. Once upon a time, she was proud of maintaining her innocence. Now she has to sell some of her body in exchange for money. It must be said that the current situation is not only safer, but also less dignified than when she was a spy. Hyūga Teru chuckled. Even if there's a deal, the price won't be as high as before. After all, you came to me with ill intentions. Wouldn't I be a fool to give you a large sum of money, 50,000 taels per time? If you agree, you can get 50,000 taels every time. If not, I'm not really interested. Pregnant women can use a little exercise, and I'd find someone else rather than you. No one else, Nono suddenly said anxiously, then came to her senses and realized she was being nosy. Well, I think you shouldn't make Zyushia sad anymore. Let me take it all on my own. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but scrutinize Nono. Are you sure you won't hurt Zyushia by doing this? You said you're taking it all on yourself, aren't you just after my money? Are you trying to make fun of me again? Nono's chest heaved violently, and then he gritted his teeth. Anyway, I have no choice. If you want to make fun of me, go ahead. I'm just worried you won't be able to hold it together. With that, Nono immediately turned and left in a huff. As for not being able to hold it together, it seemed a bit intriguing. He didn't think much of it. Hyūga Teru immediately returned to the house. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Hyūga Natsu waiting eagerly inside, surprised to see him back so quickly. So soon? Don't you usually take at least an hour? I think you could extend it a little longer, Hyūga Teru said, playing with Natsu's hair. Speaking of which, you wouldn't feel bad about me following her out, would you? Let me give you a good rub. Hyūga Natsu's face immediately flushed. No way, master, you're up to no good again. Speaking of which, do you know Nono-san? Hyūga Teru nodded. Of course. Do you think I'd be overly intimate with any woman I meet? But I'm warning you, don't trust her too much. She's not just any kind-hearted older sister. Her gentleness towards others, besides children, has a purpose. Next time, when I'm not at the table, you'd better check beforehand. Hyūga Natsu's eyes widened. No way, are they all that scary, master? Nono-san seems quite kind. But come to think of it, it's no wonder you came back so soon. If she's in such danger, why did you let her come to your house? Isn't that sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth? Hyūga Teru smiled and stroked her head. Actually, there's nothing to be afraid of. Besides, Master is here. Hikaru can take you away in a heartbeat and won't let anyone hurt you. You're so stinky. Hikaru buried himself in Hinata Natsu's chest, making a dull sound, as if responding to what Hyūga Teru had said. Curious, Hinata Natsu pinched its face with both hands and lifted it up. Hidden light can protect me? Master, are you kidding? It's so small, I can protect it, right? Hyūga Teru said mysteriously. Who'll protect who? You'll see how it compares to those little guys tomorrow. Now, just rest with Master. Suddenly, Hinata Natsu was completely embraced. Before she could struggle, she was carried steadily into the bedroom. The next day, Itachi happened to be free to come and study, so they arranged a duel between him and Hikaru. Although Itachi was a little baffled, believing Hikaru, with his short arms and legs, couldn't be that powerful, he was truly taken aback by the incredibly fast flickering technique. Feeling the sharp edge behind him, he didn't even have the chance to cast a Jinjutsu. In other words, there was no chance of a comeback. This was a true instant defeat. Seeing Itachi, known as the mysterious instant killer in his previous life, being instantly defeated by Minato Pika gave Hinata Teru a strange sense of pleasure. Wow, so impressive. What kind of summoning beast is this? Its flickering technique is faster than many Jonin, right? Watching the entire scene, Hinata Natsu was astonished by Minato Pika. As if to claim credit, Minato Pika executed a powerful movement, his face brimming with arrogance. Pikachu, what's it talking about? Why can't such a powerful summoning beast speak? Hinata Natsu couldn't help but glance at Hinata Teru questioningly. Hinata Teru chuckled and said, it's asking for credit, but not because it defeated Itachi, but because it discovered something. Look at the direction of its finger, it's probably hiding something. I'll go over and see what it is, you just stay here. Hinata Teru immediately jumped in the direction Pikachu pointed. There was a silver-haired, masked man reading a book. There was no one else in Konoha who looked like this except Kakashi. Why are you here? Are you here to get the new work? Why don't you just come to my house? Kakashi scratched his head in embarrassment. I wanted to wait a while, after all, there are so many people in your family. I didn't expect that the yellow-skinned mouse to find me. Why is the mouse wearing the robe of the Fourth Raikage? Hinata Teru said without thinking. Because its body flicking technique is so powerful and its appearance is shining with gold. I got it a set of the Fourth Raikage's robe. How about it? Not bad, right, Kakashi? Chapter 82 Strong. Oh, a new series? Why isn't the protagonist a man? Will it be good? Kakashi, upon receiving the new book, immediately forgot all about the yellow mouse. Hinata felt a little guilty watching Kakashi's growing obsession with colored books. But after all, the book would sell, and it would probably bring disaster to even more people. So, he completely forgot about the negative impact it had caused. In a sense, perhaps most ninjas would find redemption through this book. After all, Kakashi relied on this book for spiritual support. Hinata couldn't help but pat Kakashi on the shoulder. The last book was my debut, and this one is a huge improvement. You'll know if it's any good if you read it more. It won't disappoint you. Thinking back to the last book, Kakashi's eyes lit up. Although the perspective is a little different, it does seem to have improved a lot, and the plot is exciting and bold. That's right, this is what adults should read. Go back and enjoy it, and remember to be cautious. Kakashi felt a little embarrassed at the mention of this, but he quickly nodded and left like a gust of wind. Hinata Teru returned to the mansion, and Itachi immediately surrounded him. Uncle Teru, is this yellow-skinned mouse a summoning beast? How can it be so powerful? Can I fight it often? A hint of determination glimmered in Itachi's eyes, clearly unconvinced that a tiny Minato pickup could instantly defeat him. Hinata Teru couldn't help but pat his head. Of course, but make sure you rest well and don't overexert yourself. Look at the tear troughs on your face, they're getting deeper and deeper. You should read something that makes you happy, Hinata Teru said, handing Itachi another book. This is the latest edition, but remember to use it sparingly, otherwise it's very harmful to your health. Itachi had long since given up on resisting such books. He took it calmly and looked at Hinata Teru inquiringly. Uncle Teru, Shisa wants to learn from you, too. Is that available? Honestly, the mention of Shisa annoyed Hinata. Itachi had been reading his erotic novels for days. With the exception of Niji, He wasn't very friendly to anyone else. He was still very polite and friendly to men, and very silent with women. Hinata had a vague feeling that Shisu was still brainwashing Itachi, constantly flirting with him, trying to influence him into his desired ways. So, consciously or unconsciously, he felt a bit annoyed with Shisu. Now Itachi was even talking about bringing Shisu along, which irritated Hinata so much that he was speechless. However, believing that knowing your enemy and yourself ensures victory in every battle, and considering that his previous attempts to trick Shisu seemed to be working, Hinata nodded in affirmation. Bring him along too. Today's training will be practical. Fight Hikaru and experience the power of a high-level ninja. Understood, Itachi replied seriously. Seeing this, Hinata created a shadow clone and sent it to teach Neji and Hinata, who were playing with Pikachu. He entered the room. He walked over to Nono, who was mopping the floor, touched her thigh, and gave her a wicked smile. How about going to the bathroom to earn some money? Didn't you say yesterday that you were going to make me unable to stand up? Nono glared at Hyūga Teru, then gritted her teeth and agreed. I'll go, I'm just afraid you won't be able to handle it soon. Tisk, tisk, I advise you not to brag. I'm a different person now. I take a lot of supplements every day. You better not overwork yourself. Nono looked unfazed. HMPH, it's only a little over a month. Can you really turn into a cow? Nono had no idea that since Hyūga Teru bought the young cattle and took good care of them at the ranch, Hyūga Teru's meat consumption had increased. If it wasn't enough, he could always steal. In short, he had been eating a lot of this high-quality beef. The stronger and healthier he had become, the more obvious it was. After Hinata Shia became pregnant, he had been taking care of her and hadn't been visiting Uchiha as often, so he was always full of energy. After the two of them entered the bathroom, Nono soon realized that she had thought too simply. 2 hours later, Hyūga Teru was refreshed. Pharmacist Nono was paralyzed, his legs and feet were shaking constantly. Taking the 100,000 taels handed to him, Pharmacist Nono was about to cry. She had been busy for 2 hours for 100,000 taels. This seemed a little different from what she had thought. She had originally thought that it was Hyūga Teru who fell to the ground and couldn't get up, but now it was her. How could this beast-like guy become more and more powerful? It really puzzled her. How have you become so much stronger? This is not the same as before. Only 100,000 taels in 2 hours. It's really too little, too little. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but tease. It's mainly because my wife gave you a lot of money, so you think it's too little. In the past, you should help solve any request I made. After all, I paid you such a high salary. Although Nono was very unhappy, she even felt that Hyūga Teru was inhumane. But the other party had little sense of morality to begin with, so not chasing him away was already very good, and he dared not ask for anything more. He could only swallow all his grievances. But as she sadly gathered herself together and prepared to continue tidying up her room, Hyūga Teru leaned in and whispered, "Come to think of it, if you ever feel like you don't want to work hard anymore, you can tell me. You were going to get married anyway. Instead of looking for someone you don't know and who has less money, why not just come to me? You should be able to see how good I am to my own people, right? Besides, Danzo forced you to come to me. Withholding your money is effectively depriving you of your freedom. You might as well switch sides and join me. After all, I'm much richer than Danzo," and it was. Yakashi Nono was actually a little tempted. She probably had some idea of Hyūga Teru's wealth. That morning, he'd asked her to help carry the money into the room and arrange it to form a bed. Being very sensitive to money, she had roughly estimated it almost as she was carrying it. It was over 8 billion, and it was said that this was only a portion. At the time, she thought Hyūga Teru was deliberately showing off his wealth to her. Now she suddenly realized that this was probably deliberately displayed by Hyūga Teru, and was used now to shake her will. But it must be said that Hyūga Teru's proposal was indeed very attractive. But this made her feel that she was too belittling herself, and it seemed that all the efforts of the first half of her life would be destroyed. However, the terror of Danzo still made her suppress her inner desire. No matter how much money you have to have a life to spend it. After restraining her hesitation, she replied to Hyūga Teru, "I still want to keep trying, thank you for your kindness." Hyūga Teru was surprised for a moment. "Really? Then I won't force you, but when you figure it out, just tell me." Chapter 81, Burning Escape Yakin. Ling. Successfully signed in for 7 days at the Uchiha clan territory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Mangekyou eye technique, Future Vision. Future Vision. When using this eye technique, imagine the object you wish to see and you will see its future state. The further into the future you see, the more eye energy is consumed. Another new eye technique? It looks impressive. Could it be Fugaku's ability? Hinata felt a slight burning sensation in his eyes, and he felt a sense of joy. However, he was troubled by how to test this ability. After much deliberation, he decided to test it on something he might encounter today. A complex Mangekyou pattern suddenly coalesced in Hinata's eyes. A flash of purple light illuminated, and the image in his right eye suddenly changed dramatically. He ate breakfast, imparted knowledge to Niji and Hinata, and then teased Hinata. Natsu and Nono, Chiyo and the others, have already prepared the money, but what's the point of having this woman deliver it? This woman, isn't she still dead? Is her death what Chiyo and Ebizo wished for? Seeing a familiar woman with mostly dark green hair with orange tips and a voluptuous figure, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but feel suspicious. Tsunagakure's burning release, Yakura, the poor woman who was betrayed and killed by her own village in the original story. When it comes to infighting, Tsunagakure is probably on par with Konoha. The treatment of the Jinchuriki seems to be the worst in Tsunagakure. Gaara is the son of the Fourth Raikage, Raza, yet he's treated as if he's not his biological son. Raza's fatherly love has collapsed. Not only does he frequently have assassinations committed against Gaara, he even has those closest to him do so, turning Gaara into a murderous maniac. When it comes to being ruthless to his son, Raza is probably the most brutal. He's truly ruthless when it comes to infighting. The war has been over for about 3 years, and for Tsunagakure, it's been about 5 years. So why hasn't Luoshak, this guy with a strong desire for control, dealt with Yikang yet? But it's good that he hasn't been dealt with, as he still needs a lot of subordinates. Although Yikang is not strong, if he was betrayed by the village and saved by himself, it shouldn't be difficult to recruit him as a subordinate. After figuring it out, Hyūga Teru was in a good mood. After acting according to the future he saw, it was afternoon. Minato Pika suddenly made a sound, letting Hyūga Teru know that the flying thunder god Kune sent out a week ago should have reacted. Hyūga Teru immediately walked to Minato Pika, and the man and the beast disappeared in an instant. In the desert of the Wind Country, surrounded by a large group of goats and camels, a woman with a large area of snow-white skin exposed on her back stood proudly. Frowning and staring at the short Kune in her hand, the person who hadn't seen her for a long time couldn't help but become irritable, and her chest heaved violently. Is this thing fake? We agreed to summon that person. Hey, beautiful lady, where are Chiyo and Ebizo from Tsunagakure? Why haven't they come? A flash of white light appeared, and Hyūga Teru, having transformed, appeared immediately, his tone somewhat frivolous. Although he knew Yikang, this was his first time seeing her up close. Due to the flying thunder god technique, the two were incredibly close, practically separated by a Pikachu. Being significantly taller than Yikang, he could clearly see her Tsundeer giant rabbits. Asshole, look again and I'll gouge your eyes out. Yikang immediately sensed something was wrong and raised his hand, conjuring balls of flames that scorched the ground and twisted the air, shooting towards Hyūga Teru. But the flames shot out into nothingness, and Hyūga Teru suddenly landed behind Yikang, involuntarily inhaling deeply from the back of her neck. A faint scent of soap. You seem to be a woman who deeply appreciates cleanliness. In a village like Tsunagakure, do you still bathe so often, or did you bathe specifically to see me? With a sizzle, 2 balls of blazing flame suddenly appeared, igniting Hyūga Teru's entire being. Foolish man, surrender and I'll retract my flames. Otherwise, only death awaits you. However, to Yikang's great surprise, Hyūga Teru suddenly approached from the side, unharmed. He was instantly shocked. How is that possible? I clearly hit you. I could even feel the chakra seeping into your body. In that instant, Hyūga Teru had used the divine eye's energy. It clearly made Yikang feel the impact, but it also instantly reversed the negative effects. Unlike a body flickering jutsu or a body substitution jutsu, he didn't even feel the impact. Seeing Yikang's astonishment, Hyūga Teru shook his head. It seems the 2 men who sent you here didn't tell you how terrifying I am. But since you're here to trade the third Raikage puppet, you should have at least anticipated my strength, right? What? They're trading the third Raikage puppet with you? No wonder the 2 advisors told me not to ask any questions, just give the item and leave immediately. Yikang, as if completely unaware, expressed surprise again. This surprised Hyūga Teru. You sound like you know nothing? Faced with the unknown, shouldn't you assess the situation first? You're attacking me the moment I arrive. Aren't you afraid of angering me? Yi Kang's rage subsided, and he controlled several fireballs, which flew around him continuously. As a ninja, you don't need to know too much. Just carry out your mission consistently. But you dared to extort so much from me, Tsunagakure. Of course, I want to see what you're capable of. Hyūga Teru's eyes grew colder, and he folded his arms. So you disobeyed the orders given to you by Uchiha and the others, and you're still thinking of fighting me? You're a bit of a weird woman. You're going to suffer a great loss later. Stop the nonsense. Don't think you can defeat me just because you have a unique body substitution technique. The outcome wasn't even decided yet, Yi Kang shouted, and instantly shot out, a blazing fireball following close behind. He immediately struck Hyūga Teru with a palm strike. Scorch release. Steaming kill. Hyūga Teru was speechless at this woman's ignorance of the situation. But he also understood why she had been tricked to death. Amidst his inner sighs, a flood of electric arcs instantly enveloped him. God-level lightning release armor, a physical armor instantly covered his entire body, and Yi Kang's attack reached close. Boom. The blazing flames exploded as they struck Hyūga Teru. But unlike before, when Yi Kang struck an ordinary person, the flames would instantly penetrate the victim's body, evaporating a large amount of their water. But in the end, the flames only exploded, but didn't penetrate the opponent's body, let alone evaporate the water. This lightning armor is so strong, Hyūga Teru saw Yi Kang's surprise. He couldn't help but feel sad for this foolish woman. The Third Raikage couldn't withstand me. You want to burn me with your painless flames? It's simply wishful thinking. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Cloud Hidden Cattle Thief. The Third Raikage. Yi Kang was stunned for a moment, but then his expression turned cold. The Third Raikage has been dead for a long time. What's the point of being tough? After taking a step to distance himself from Hyūga, Yi Kang immediately ordered his ambushed men. Everyone, form a line and attack. Let this guy know how powerful we are. Yes, over a dozen ninjas wearing Tsunagakure forward protectors appeared. Suddenly, the surrounding camels and sheep began to run, opening up a large area. The Tsunagakure ninjas immediately formed a line, their hands rapidly forming hand seals. Wind style. Great breakthrough, boom. A hurricane of wind, like an air cannonball, erupted from the Tsunagakure ninjas. One after another, hurricane force winds stretched for dozens of meters, sweeping towards them with yellow sand. Faced with such a weak wind, Hyūga Teru didn't even want to move, and gave Minato Pika a look beside him. Minato Pikachu instantly unleashed several shurikens, soaring over the hurricane. A flash of golden light flickered and danced. The line of Tsunagakure ninjas were completely crushed to the ground. Just as Yakira was about to launch an attack, Minato Pikachu suddenly appeared in front of her chest. With a small claw, he slapped down, instantly unfurling a vast net of profound spells. Instantly, the fireballs she had gathered in the air were annihilated one by one. What's going on? It's a sealing technique. Who are you, Pikachu? Seeing the exchange between the man and the beast, Hyūga Teru approached with a quizzical expression. It only makes Pikachu noises. You won't get anything out of it. I'm curious about you. What makes you want to attack me? Don't you know that even Shikio and Ebizo can only beg for mercy in front of me? Oh, by the way, I almost forgot that they seem to be deliberately trying to trick you. Yakira suddenly erupted in anger. You are forbidden from slandering the two advisors. They have worked diligently for Tsunagakure, and their age has greatly reduced their combat effectiveness. They sent me here because they needed my strength. I just didn't expect you to be so formidable. I couldn't take you down. I've truly betrayed the two advisors' trust. You can kill me or chop me up as you please, but I hope you can return the Third Raikage puppet to Tsunagakure and release my men. Otherwise, even if you become a demon, I won't let you go. Hearing Yi Kang say that, Hyūga Teru was speechless. This woman was honest, straightforward, and simple. But as a companion, she would probably be very trustworthy. After all, even in death, she remained the hero of Tsunagakure. A woman who could earn the title of hero must have considerable personal charm. Her courage to take responsibility for her actions, while also caring for her subordinates, was truly admirable. Alright, I never meant to kill you Tsunagakure ninjas in the first place. Take this thing and go back. It'd be bad luck to leave it to me, but it could be quite useful in your hands. By the way, tell Chiao and Ebizo that I won't be returning Scorpion to them. I need Scorpion to do something for me. Yukang was puzzled. Scorpion, you mean that puppet genius, Scorpion of the Red Sand? Chiao's grandson, Hyūga Teru, was impressed by this woman, who attacked without knowing anything. Yet, besides that Scorpion, who else do you think deserves my special attention? At this point, Hyūga Teru immediately ordered Minato Pikachu to the side. Hikaru, remove the seal on him Pikachu. Minato Pikachu received the order and immediately stepped forward to remove the restraints on Yukang. This left Yukang puzzled, but then something clicked. But before she could say anything, Hyūga Teru interrupted. Don't overthink it. I just want your help herding those camels and sheep. As for whether I'm afraid of your sand village, I can tell you clearly, Chiao and Ebizo combined can't defeat my pet who can use space ninjutsu. Do you think I need to worry about your sand village's retaliation? Yukang was puzzled, completely incredulous. Space ninjutsu? The speed is indeed amazing, but to be able to deal with the Grandma Chiao and Master Ebizo, how is that even possible? Hyūga Teru had probably noticed that this woman always seemed to overthink her own people's strengths, never the strengths of others. Forget it, forget it. I won't argue with you about this. I'll give you the puppet. Hurry and bring me the sheep, camels, and other things, okay? Yukang was stunned for a moment. After accepting the scroll, he immediately went to get people to herd the camels and sheep. He also brought a small wooden box for Hyūga Teru. When he opened it, he found hard, shit-like piles of stones. Probably some kind of ore, but Hyūga Teru ignored it. After the camels and sheep arrived, Yukang suddenly appeared before him. His eyes flashed with great surprise. It's really the third Kazakage, and he's been made into a puppet? Did you do this? Hyūga Teru spread his hands. Do you think I have the power to assassinate a ninja from your village and then make him into a puppet to enhance my strength? Human puppets are clearly your village's proprietary technology, okay? Don't always think too highly of your village, or you'll suffer a great loss. However, Yukang didn't hear a word of what he said, and instead felt a little annoyed. Why do you always slander our sand village? After all, we are a great ninja village. How could we be as bad as you say? Hyūga Teru smiled and shook his head. As you wish. Your mind is set, and I can't change it. But if you keep thinking this way, perhaps we'll meet again. What a bummer. Yukang folded her arms, then glanced sideways at the herded camels and sheep, grumbling, how can you take all that stuff with you? Hyūga Teru formed a hand seal and instantly created dozens of shadow clones. Don't worry about that. Even if you take all the supplies from Sand Village, I can take them all. The shadow clones instantly glowed with their hands, slapping the camels and sheep, who vanished. The speed left Yukang speechless. Wow, so fast. What kind of space ninjutsu is this? How come I've never seen it before? Yukang couldn't help but glance at Hyūga Teru again, feeling that this man was shrouded in mystery. However, the lightning armor, coupled with the strange method of transporting the camels and sheep, reminded her of the hidden cloud village. It is said that cattle are always lost in Kumagakure. Could he be the cattle thief? It is said that the cattle thieves in Kumagakure are not only good at stealing cattle, but also their signature ninjutsu and swordsmanship are extremely powerful. Yukang felt that she had discovered a big secret, but Hyūga Teru looked at her with a half-smile. Chapter 83 Kaleidoscope promoted again. You look strange. Are you up to something bad again? Yukira demanded bluntly. Hyūga Teru shook his head. It's not a bad idea. I'll give you that kunai for now. You can use it if you encounter any threats, or use it to contact us if anything. Yukira's expression was a bit strange. She had just been debating whether to reveal Hyūga Teru's identity to Chiyo and Ebizo. Perhaps the village would cooperate with Kumagakure to deal with Hyūga Teru. But now she had a strange feeling that they didn't seem to care. The alliance between the two great ninja villages, and yet they were so confident? With Kumagakure's violent temper, they might lead a group to ambush them. Yukira had no idea that Hyūga Teru had just used his vision on her. He had foreseen that she would report this, and that Tsunagakure would then join forces with Kumagakure to deal with him. Although a bit self-deprecating, Hyūga Teru was strong enough that this incident would not affect him at all, and it would also put Yukira in the spotlight. This would also accelerate Yakira's betrayal by the village. Just now, when Pikachu had made his move, he had left a flying thunder god mark on Yakira, which monitored her vital signs and triggered it. Although it was a passive mark, it would only trigger when Yakira's vital signs were extremely weak. But if she was in danger, Minato Pikachu would be there instantly, so all the effort put into her wouldn't be wasted. This was essentially pushing Yakira step by step, and doing it very steadily. Yakira had been hesitant about returning the flying thunder god Kune, but now it seemed even more strange. This man not only refused to take it back, but also kept it with her for protection? What was he doing? Was he attracted to her? It was exactly as I'd expected when they first met. He was indeed a lecherous man. Alright, let's go back now, okay, let's go. Don't forget to say hello to Chiyo, Ebizo, and the others from me. Yakira and the team slowly left. Hyūga Teru, after transferring the various alpacas, followed Pikachu out. Uchiha has successfully signed in for 7 days. Congratulations to the host for receiving a Sharingan upgrade, God-level Mangekyo Sharingan, God-level Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, I-Power increases to that of a 14 Magatama Rinnegan, I-Power recovery doubles, Susanu's defense doubles, and its size triples. Hearing the system notification, Hyūga Teru was stunned. Another 7-day sign-in period had passed, and he had unexpectedly received another Mangekyo upgrade reward. Furthermore, it had become the Eternal Eye, and the power of this ability had doubled. He wondered if he could eventually reach the 999 Magatama Rinnegan. Speaking of a 999 Magatama Rinnegan, how big could the Mangekyo Sharingan be? Could it be the size of a planet? He had previously been curious about the size of his Susanoo, so he unleashed it at the beach to see it, over 500 meters tall, like a small mountain. It had tripled again, now standing at perhaps a kilometer. He probably thought any Susanoo would be a mere child in front of it. Just thinking about releasing a 1,000-meter-tall Susanoo, and then punching a small Susanoo with one, made Hyūga feel incredibly refreshed. Then, Hyūga opened his Mangekyo again, using his usual future vision to see what the day might hold. Same situation. Wait? Why are Shisu and Itachi suddenly taking off their pants in front of me? Are they being rude? Or have they read too much? Holy crap. Strike. Strike real swords. What's wrong with these two? They're actually clashing swords. Hyūga was speechless, but he suddenly understood why Itachi hadn't yet succumbed to his brother obsession mentality. Shisu's actions were truly extraordinary. Fortunately, he'd foreseen all this, otherwise he might have been socially annihilated. Not to mention the third Hokage might have spied on this. The children in his yard, Hyūga, Natsu, and Nono would all have seen it. Now that he knew, he could easily prevent it. Reassured, Hyūga continued to predict what would happen today, and stumbled upon something that intrigued him deeply. Far offshore, Yukito seems to have run into someone from Kumagakure, and coincidentally, it's none other than Killer Bee. It seems your luck is really good today, it's time to increase her chakra again. It was afternoon. On a small boat offshore, Hyūga Teru enjoyed Yukito feeding her with food while he massaged her belly with his newly learned technique. Yukito, previously injured by the infinite side reading, initially curled up at the mere touch of her stomach. Now, she could tolerate even the slightest massage, slowly adjusting to the discomfort. As the massage continued, her face gradually turned rosy, her eyes watering with longing. Master. Yukito is hungry. Hyūga Teru patted her head, soothing her. Be patient. We have guests arriving today. Eat some fruit first. He peeled a banana for her and let her eat it. Then, the sea suddenly became turbulent. From a certain direction, a massive wave suddenly appeared, pushing a large ship towards them. The large ship clearly wasn't equipped with an engine. A sharper eye could spot thick, red tentacles propelling it from behind. Several people, all with dark skin, stood on the boat. Seeing the commotion in the distance, Ren was stunned for a moment, then looked suspiciously at Hikaru. Master, Ren feels, those people over there seem familiar. Hikaru was puzzled for a moment, then stroked her soft hair. Maybe you've been at sea for too long. I'll take you ashore later. Those people are coming to take you away. Are you willing to part with me, your master? Ren immediately shook her head, a look of sadness on her face, and quickly wrapped her arms around Hikaru. Don't leave my master, ever, Hikaru said, caressing her cheek. Ren is so obedient, how could I bear to leave you? Let the master chase them away, So they never dare to bother you again. Ren nodded repeatedly. Master is so kind, but Yukito is still a little hungry. Master, please feed Yukito quickly. As Yukito spoke, her hands began to become restless. She wanted to see if Hyūga Teru had hidden any delicious food on him. Although the little girl was getting more and more hungry, Hyūga Teru knew that business was more important, so she immediately held her hands. Let's wait for a while. Master will deal with them soon, and will come over to feed you until your stomach is full. Yukito's cheeks flushed, and her cherry lips kept breathing heavily. It seemed as if there was a fire hidden in her body, and she nodded obediently. Okay, Master, you hurry up. Chapter 84, Fighting Killer Bee. Ling. 8 Tails Jinchuriki Killer Bee is detected approaching. Congratulations to the host for receiving a personality sign-in for defeating Killer Bee. Defeat Killer Bee personality sign-in. Within 1 hour, defeat Killer Bee by any means and receive a mysterious gift. Mysterious gift? Sounds like it's not something easy to guess, and it might even give me something special. Hyūga Teru could probably guess that the system might be giving him a mini 8 Tails summoning beast. The fact that it was a mysterious gift suggested the reward might not be so simple. Regardless, the personality sign-in reward was still quite good. Hyūga Teru wasted no time and immediately sprinted towards the speeding ship. As Hyūga Teru ran, the dark-skinned woman on the ship's unfocused gaze suddenly shifted. She moved her telescope and immediately addressed a man eating a lollipop nearby. Amoy, quickly tell Teacher Killer Bee that someone is coming our way from the boat in the direction of the wooden man. Amoy pulled the lollipop out of her mouth, still looking unmotivated. I see, Karu. It's just someone coming over, isn't it? What's so surprising? If it wasn't Ren, it wouldn't matter at all. Wait, if it wasn't Ren, then was it a man or a woman? If it's a man, then Ren might have found a man she likes. What if he doesn't come back with us? Karu's forward veins bulged, and his fists clenched. What the hell are you thinking? Could you please tell Master the situation first before you start making wild guesses? However, Amoy's expression became increasingly serious. No, you'd better tell me whether it's a man or a woman first. Because if it was a man, we shouldn't stop, we should just charge. What? Karu was shocked, looking at Amoy like he was stupid. Master is so fast, and you're still charging forward. Are you trying to run him over? Amoy said without any concealment. Of course we have to kill him, or we won't be able to take Ren back. With a loud bang, Karu's fist smashed into Amoy's head, leaving a large bump. You bastard. Ren finally found someone he likes, and you still want to kill him? Are you a beast? Amoy rolled his eyes in pain, a bitter expression on his face. That's not what I'm saying, Karu. It's mainly because Ren found a man outside, probably from another village. Think about it, how can someone from another village be as reliable as someone from our village, even though Ren is ostracized in the village and it might be hard for her to find someone who likes her? People from other villages are also unreliable. Maybe they just thought she was pretty and threw her away when they got tired of her. Bang! Caught off guard, Amoy's head was hit again with a loud bang, this time sending him crashing to the ground. Then, Karu's stocking-clad foot stomped down on Amoy. Asshole, idiot, son of a bitch, don't think all men are like you. The whole village is afraid of Yumujin, but I think it's great that someone from another village is interested in her. What do you mean by abandoning her when you get tired of her? That's just your pessimism. Shut up, hey, you two, behave yourself. We might be in trouble. Suddenly, a burly man wearing goggles, with a potbelly and 8 swords strapped to his back, walked onto the deck with a stern expression. At that moment, the sky seemed to darken, and the deck was pitch black. This immediately made Karu and Amoy nervous. Looking up from the deck, their jaws dropped. What, giant, what the hell is this? It's colorful, probably bigger than a tailed beast, right? Killer Bee Sensei. Killer Bee, standing nearby, suddenly pulled out a small notebook and began writing rapidly. Yo, the giant is out front, so big it's dark. Things are tough, but I'm not panicking. I'll just take the boat and run away. Big brother will praise me, yay. Karu's mouth twitched after hearing Kirabee's lame rap. He seemed to understand what Kirabee was singing, and felt a little relieved. But would a gigantic 1,000-meter giant really let them escape safely? Boom boom. The 1,000-meter giant began to move, its entire body firmly planted on the surface of the sea, but with every step, the water suddenly splashed. Rumbling waves pushed forward from both sides, the momentum resembling the terrifying high tide, even knocking many larger fish unconscious. Yo, this is a race of the ages, a crazy race against a 1,000-meter giant. Karu Amoy, hold on to the boat. Kirabi immediately transformed into a giant octopus, shouted passionately, and then pushed Kirabi away at a rapid speed. 8 tentacles, like 8 engines, raced underwater, whipping up massive waves. Though the 8-tailed creature was dozens of times smaller than the 1,000-meter-long Susanoo, its speed was surprisingly no less impressive, even surpassing it. This killer bee seems quite capable, so fast underwater. But how can swimming compare to flying? Hyūga Teru was momentarily stunned. He immediately manipulated the Susanoo to spread its wings. With a single leap, the creature's power was like a multi-million-ton bomb exploding, leaving a massive crater in its wake. In the blink of an eye, it only glided slowly a short distance before catching up with Killer Bee and the others. With a single reach, he could pull them from the sea. Master, he's caught up, right above us, Karu screamed frantically, tangling himself like an octopus in terror around the wooden stake in the center of the boat. Amoy muttered to himself, his face glum. It's over, it's over. They really are here to kill us. But Yukido's men, are they too powerful? Able to control such a terrifyingly gigantic giant? Could it be that they know our village treated Yukido badly, so they hate us too, and want to kill us to appease Yukido? Killer Bee stopped swimming. Seeing the hand, almost his own size, slowly reaching out, he immediately condensed a pitch-black ball of incredible energy in front of his mouth. Tailed beast ball, boom. The black ball suddenly shot out from Killer Bee's mouth, quickly exploding into the outstretched giant hand, exploding into a blazing flame. Yay, it worked, master. A few more shots, a few more, and kill it. Seeing the tailed beast ball successfully strike Susanoo's hand, Karu's face, illuminated by the flames, broke into a brilliant smile. Well, it seems that being huge isn't such a big deal. I guess with a few more shots, I can still defeat the larger one, Killer Bee muttered. But within him, the 8-tailed Gyuki's expression suddenly changed. Oh no. Quickly take your disciples and dive into the water, Kirabi. Chapter 85 Mini 8-tailed Summoning Beast. What's wrong, Gyuoni? A few more shots and we should win. Why are you so nervous? The flame spread so widely that Killer Bee still couldn't make out. But now, Gyuoni's voice grew heavier. Since it can be blown up, it must be a physical entity. But this thing is simply energy. It will continue to appear even after you explode. I originally thought it was so large, it might be an illusion, but it turns out it really is that thing. That thing. Killer Bee scratched his head, bewildered. What is it? Is it very powerful? Gyuoni's face was filled with panic. If it's the thing I know, then it's terrifying. Because the thing I know is only a few hundred meters tall, this is 3 or 4 times bigger, and, the terrifying thing about this thing isn't just this giant. The most terrifying thing is the person behind this energy giant. He could control me with just a glance. Killer Bee was completely stunned. He can control you with just a glance? Are there beings more powerful than you tailed beasts? Why have I never heard you mention that? Gyuoni couldn't help but feel anxious. Don't ask any more questions. Just take your apprentices and run. I'm sure it'll be very difficult to lead them. If you want to run on your own, I can still help you, Kirabi insisted. I finally have apprentices. How could I abandon them? Nia Gui, you should do your best to help them at this. Kirabi couldn't help but raise his fist. I knew you wouldn't abandon them, Nia Gui sighed, extending his fist and meeting Kirabi's. Kirabi's spirit left Nia Gui's space and immediately extended 2 huge tentacles, quickly grabbing Karu and Amoy. Master, what are you going to do? Keep bombing? Maybe the next one will kill them. Karu looked at Kirabi expectantly. However, as if expecting something, Amoy began to worry again. It's over, it's over. I guess Master also feels he can't defeat such a giant. Actually, it's easy to understand. Even if one hand is blown off, the rest of it can still crush us, Killer Bee said sternly. You're all wrong, but Amoy's guess wasn't entirely wrong. Anyway, we have to run. Take a breath. I'll take you to the sea. Karu looked extremely surprised, but when he saw Killer Bee begin to dive, he couldn't help but inhale sharply. Amoy, overcome with grief, quickly crushed his lollipop and took a deep breath as well. Hurry, hurry. The two were quickly dragged under the water. But the giant hand extended downward almost immediately. Killer Bee's speed underwater was incredibly fast, which annoyed Hyūga Teru, who had already jumped into the air. He immediately activated his clairvoyance to observe their movemts. Boom! Susanoo once again rose to the surface, shaking up a massive wave. Without delay, Hyūga Teru followed Killer Bee and the others, swiftly drawing the long sword from his back as he gave chase. The long sword was unlike any other. Its purplish-blue blade was covered in fine cracks, as if it were already a broken blade. Buzz! The giant Susanoo suddenly swung its long sword, its blade slicing through the air with a roar like an airplane streaking through the sky. But just as the blade's momentum was about to fade, the entire blade suddenly shattered, yet the fragments retained their original shape, extending as if connected by invisible threads. The fragments suddenly plunged into the sea, splitting the surface dozens of meters deep. 100 meters away, they swiftly severed Killer Bee, now in his eight-tailed form, cleaving him in two. Simultaneously, Hyūga Teru entered Samsara Chakra mode, instantly gathering a large amount of black truth-seeking orbs in his hands. Imbued with the blue Samsara Chakra, the truth-seeking orbs began to spin swiftly and flexibly. Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, the spinning truth-seeking orb formed a catastrophic silver tornado, which Hyūga swiftly hurled. It landed directly above Killer Bee and the others, slowly descending into the water, creating a massive vortex on the surface. Immediately, objects encased in 3 massive black spheres were commanded to soar. Ling completed the personality sign-in for defeating Killer Bee. Congratulations to the host for receiving a mini 8-tailed summoning beast, and the God-level Killer Bee 8-sword style, mini 8-tailed summoning beast. While possessing only a third of the chakra of the original 8-tail, it possesses all of its abilities. God-level Killer Bee 8-sword style, even with the ability to manipulate 8 swords, it can be wielded with ease, wielding them like a bee's wings, emitting a sharp buzzing sound. So it's the 8-sword style? It seems quite impressive, but I don't think I'll need it much right now, will I? Hyūga, having received his reward, was not particularly pleased. With a casual wave of his hand, he flung the Seeking Truth Jade, which contained Killer Bee and his 3 disciples, into the sky. Immediately, his mind was flooded with new knowledge about the 8-sword style, and a being, neither a cow nor an octopus, slowly began to gather around him. Master, the bull demon is at your service. Hearing the silly voice, Hyūga Teru turned his attention to the small 8-tails. From now on, you can call me Old 8. By the way, how much chakra do you possess? How much more than the 2-tails? The small 8-tails replied immediately. Master, Old 8, although I only have 1/3 of the original's chakra, I have twice as much chakra as the original 2-tails. Hyūga Teru was amazed and began to calculate. If it's doubled, that seems to add another 600 truth-seeking orbs, or 150 of Kakashi's chakra. Thinking about it this way, plus the original 8-tail, how many more truth-seeking orbs Gatling can I expect? Never mind, Killer Bee is too ugly, but the smaller one is still acceptable. The little 8-tail rubbed his face, a little surprised. Was his master praising him? Old 8, yes, master. The little 8-tail immediately stood up straight. Hyūga Teru was curious about this little-tailed beast. He seemed so energetic. Ahem, from now on, you and Komatsu will protect your kiddo together. Don't let her come to any harm. Understand? Understood, master, the little 8-tail responded immediately, his voice like a bell, almost shaking Hyūga Teru's ears. Isn't this too energetic? Old 8, now go catch some delicious fish in the sea and bring it to the boat where you kiddo and I are. Ahem, keep your voice down from now on. Understand? The little 8-tail scratched his head in confusion, but nodded in agreement. Understood, master. I'll be right there. In the blink of an eye, the little Yasuo leaped into the sea. Its red form vanished swiftly, and the water beneath it surged violently. Seeing the little Yasuo diligently catching fish, Hyūga Teru flew back to Yukido's location. Chapter 86 Meeting Yukang again. A few days later, in a vast desert in the land of wind, Yakira took out a familiar kunai. With a hesitant look on his face, he poured chakra into it. Pika, a shiny yellow mouse, with a determined air that it would never lose, suddenly appeared before Yakira. Yakira was stunned for a moment, a little confused. Pikachu, right? Can you call your master over? Minato Pika looked at Yakira warily, raised one hand, and began to sign. Pika. Pika Pika. Pika Pikachu. Yakira had no idea what Pikachu was saying, but she saw it pointing at her, then at itself, and making some gestures. It seemed to be trying to express something. What's that gesture? I don't quite understand a lot. Can you explain it in more detail? Pikachu pointed at Yakira again and began to jump. Pikachu fingers repeatedly pointed at Yakira and himself, then he placed his hands on his hips and began to dance. Yakira vaguely seemed to understand something and pointed at his nose. Are you saying, you want me to do this move with you? If I do this, will your master come? Minato Pika immediately smiled, nodded, and gave Yakira a thumbs up. Pikachu, that seemed to be the meaning. Yakira was still confused, but reluctantly followed the instructions to get Hyūga Teru to come. What are you doing? That move is so big and wide. Yakira-sama's flexibility, amazing. That rat is really too smart, actually making Yakira-sama do that. The Tsunagakure ninjas lying in ambush were all fascinated. From time to time, many people could be heard wiping their saliva. You guys, who told you to talk? Don't you know we're ambushing the enemy? Chiyo's cold voice rang out, instantly dampening the excitement of the Tsunagakure ninjas. But after that, Chiyo couldn't help but mutter something resentfully. Tisk, it's just jumping in place. When I was younger, it was much more spectacular. Someone suddenly began to retch for no apparent reason. Chiyo was instantly filled with murderous intent. Almost as soon as the murderous aura swept over everyone, no one dared to say anything. They didn't even dare to raise their heads, their bodies completely shrunken like wilted eggplants. Moments later, Hyūga Teru and Minato Pika appeared before Yukang. He was the first to witness the magnificent scene. Although Hyūga Teru was resilient, his gaze immediately shifted to the surging waves. Not bad. This makes me feel a little better. After all, there must be quite a few ambushes around here, right? Yukang was surprised to hear Hyūga Teru's words. You're willing to take this risk just to see me like this? Are you sure you're not crazy? Hyūga Teru didn't mind Yukang's idiotic look. Of course. If you feel guilty, it's okay to show me more. You're hopeless, Yukang uttered with disdain, then immediately leaped away. At that moment, a large number of spells suddenly extended around Hyūga Teru, instantly enveloping him. He was instantly unable to move. Success. We caught this guy. At this moment, a sudden gust of sandstorms blew up, and muscular men emerged from the sand, staring angrily at Hyūga Teru. However, the blonde, muscular man in the lead looked at Yukang with suspicion. Hey, Yukang, are you sure this guy is the one who stole our cattle and assassinated our village's masters? Why does he look so stupid? Yukang's expression was also extremely strange. She herself felt that it shouldn't be so easy to restrain Hyūga Teru. I don't know. Maybe we were careless. Why don't you just capture him and interrogate him? Suddenly, golden lights flashed, and with each one, a ninja was instantly killed. Oh no. It's that rat. I almost forgot about that rat. Quick, unite and attack that rat. Don't let it continue to perform that terrifying space ninjutsu. Everyone unite to kill the rat, at any cost. The moment Chiyo and Ebizo realized what was happening, they immediately ordered an indiscriminate attack. The Tsunagakure ninjas were stunned for a long time, confused by the meaning of this order. But the next second, Chiyo and Ebizo summoned the puppets, setting an example of indiscriminate attack, and they understood. The scene was simply too shocking and brutal. It made AI's scalp tingle. Have you, the Sand Village, really reached this point of weakness? You're willing to kill your own companions just to deal with a rat? Yukang, watching with trepidation, had initially hesitated to intervene, but upon hearing AI's words, he erupted in fury. Whether you're the Raikage or anything else, you'd better help quickly and stop talking nonsense. You're so powerful, go up and give it a try. AI sharpened his fists, his body swirling with lightning. He snorted with disdain. You Sand Village are truly weak, you can't even handle a mere rat. Well, we're all collaborating, so it's a shame not to contribute. With that, AI stomped the ground hard, leaving a several-meter-deep crater. He then launched himself outward like a cannonball. His massive fist slammed down on Pikachu, but before it could reach Pikachu, it vanished in a flash. Such a rapid speed, almost approaching the golden flash. That familiar robe, the words Fourth Raikage are indeed engraved on it, but it's clearly a rat. Like everyone else who had seen Minato Pikachu, AI was stunned. Just now, Minato Pikachu wasn't moving very fast, mowing down the Tsunagakure ninjas. He had assumed the rat's speed was much slower than the Fourth Raikage's, that it wasn't using space ninjutsu, just instant body movements. But now, in actual combat, he realized it wasn't even slower than the Fourth Raikage's. This was definitely a space ninjutsu approaching the Fourth Raikages. And that familiar Kune as the next reappearance location, wasn't that a bit too coincidental? A rat actually using the Fourth Raikage's famous technique. What kind of magical operation was this? As if sensing AI's attack, Minato Pikachu increased its speed even further, mowing down the surrounding ninjas at an astonishing rate. Neither Chiao Ebizo nor AI nor the other masters like Yakira could even catch a hair of it. Even though he destroyed a few of its flying Thunder God Kune, it still couldn't keep up with the numerous others it launched. He couldn't catch up to it, let alone stop it. He could only watch helplessly as his men were pierced through vital organs and bled to death. Chapter 87, Wish Come True. The wise men, Ebizo and Mabu, had originally intended to threaten Hyūga Teru. But when they looked at Hyūga Teru again, they saw he had already broken free from his seal. He was still under a large parasol. He wore sunglasses and watched the show, reclining on a bamboo lounge chair, sipping a colorful cocktail. He treated this as nothing more than a small battle, a drama staged specifically for him. Hyūga Teru, seemingly feeling Minato Pikachu wasn't moving fast enough, immediately addressed the white-furred Pikachu beside him. Kazuko, go help Hikaru. Use your dual Kamui. Leave the women and the important men behind, and kill everyone else. Pikachu, the white-furred Pikachu, reading the orange-yellow book nearby, immediately handed it to Hyūga Teru. But just as he was about to act, a fierce presence, swirling in blue sparks, suddenly rushed from the side. The white-furred Pikachu didn't dodge or evade, suddenly donning a full-length blue Susanoo. He grasped several shurikens with long blades in both hands and launched them. King's Power Shuriken. The moment the 4 shurikens flew out, the crimson eyes beneath the white-furred Pikachu's sunglasses swiveled rapidly. From 2 directions, the 4 shuriken shot towards AI at breakneck speed. AI looked at the incoming shurikens with a touch of disdain. While he had never seen such shurikens before, it didn't change the fact that they were ordinary steel. But the next moment, he regretted underestimating them. The moment they made contact, a strange, spatially tearing force suddenly unleashed, as if the incoming shurikens were all-consuming beasts, suddenly piercing his lightning armor. What is this? Even the bite of a venomous snake hadn't caused AI to cry out in pain, but the slashes of the shurikens unleashed a resounding wail. By the time he came to his senses, beads of sweat had already covered his forehead. Snap! 2 sturdy arms, severed, fell to the ground. Of AI, only his shoulders remained. If he hadn't twisted his body in midair, the wound would have devoured him from the chest. Saving his life was a very good outcome. He was about to continue fighting when blood suddenly began to spurt out of his body. Like a squeezed orange, blood spurted far and wide, staining the ground a crimson red. Realizing the severity of his injuries, AI paled terribly. He felt several times weaker than after a day of vomiting and diarrhea. Unable to stand, he was forced to half-kneel. Raikage-sama seeing AI's severe injuries, Mabu rushed to his side, immediately taking out a bandage and trying to stop the bleeding. But she wasn't a medical ninja, and despite shouting for a long time, she couldn't summon anyone. Looking back, several ninjas in white had already collapsed in a pool of blood, their bodies utterly dead. As Minato Pika possessed Minato's consciousness, he naturally knew that destroying the enemy began with a medical ninja. Upon discovering this, Mabu was filled with despair. Still unwilling to give up, he bandaged AI's shoulder again and again, attempting to staunch the bleeding. But soon, AI's lips paled with weakness, and his resolute eyes grew dull. Give up. Mabu, leave me alone and run. Otherwise, you'll die here too. Mabu shook his head hastily. Raikage-sama, please don't speak. I can heal him, I can. Kumagakure can do without anyone, but not you. Tisk-tisk, I didn't expect the Raikage to be so important. So, how about a deal? I can heal your Raikage, including his arm. Hyūga Teru's voice suddenly rang out, startling Mabu and AI. They were completely confused by Hyūga Teru's intentions. He, however, wanted to make up for not being able to eat Mabu last time. Now, it seemed, that regret could finally be resolved. Before Mabu could reply, AI barked furiously. Mabu, the enemy's words cannot be trusted. Follow my orders and leave immediately. I'll help you hold them off, buying you a final moment to escape. Looking around, however, there were no ninjas left standing. The only remaining Tsunagakure ninjas were Chiao, Ebizo, and Hakura, completely blocked from movement and guarded by Minato's pickup. AI, unable to move, was completely oblivious to what was happening behind him. But Mabu took one look and felt completely despair. He stood up, his eyes glassy, his legs trembling as he slowly approached Hyūga Teru. "Sir, can you truly heal Raikage-sama and let us go? If so, Mabu is willing to make this deal with you." Mabu gazed at Hyūga Teru with immense anticipation, hoping for a definitive answer. "Mabu, no ninja in Kumagakure will surrender, only," but before the emotional AI could finish his sentence, he collapsed. This brought Mabu to her knees, and she kowtowed solemnly to Hyūga Teru as if in atonement. "Sir, please save Raikage-sama, no matter what it costs me. You are indeed a very sensible woman. In that case, I will not break my promise." Hyūga Teru conjured a shadow clone and signaled with his eyes to the white for Pikachu to retrieve AI's arm from the Kamui space. He then ordered the shadow clone to heal AI. He, in turn, put his arm around Mabu's waist and helped her to her feet. The next second, they vanished. The swiftness of their departure startled Mabu, enveloped in light and shadow. "This is the Tensou technique. Why can't I feel the slightest friction from the air? You noticed it so quickly." Hyūga Teru couldn't help but smile. "I can only say that my abilities are superior to yours. Actually, this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you, too." "A good opportunity?" Mabu was puzzled. She glanced around suspiciously, thinking Hyūga was referring to a chance to learn the Tensou technique. Hyūga Teru moved his hand downward, causing her to shudder. Then, a warm voice reached her ear. "A good opportunity, of course, means you can steal my bloodline. Isn't it true that you, the Hidden Cloud Village, love stealing bloodlines? Such a great opportunity, I hope you'll seize it. I'm a genius who has mastered the Tensou technique, which can transport anything." Mabu, realizing what the good opportunity meant, immediately felt bitter, feeling quite embarrassed. But the thought of the Raikage being able to survive and retain his arms, and the supposedly stolen bloodline, slowly gave way to her resistance. Soon they arrived at a town and checked into a luxurious hotel. They stayed there until the sun was about to set. Chapter 88, Caring for the Raikage Secretary. As expected of the Fourth Raikage's dedicated and capable secretary, you're truly worthy. Most women probably couldn't last that long, but why don't you stay a few more days? What if it's just these few times you haven't been able to steal my bloodline? Hyūga Teru's praise was genuine. After demonstrating the Tensou technique to Mabu, Hyūga Teru also demonstrated magnetic manipulation and storm release at the inn. While both were unique to the Kumagakure, possessing so many blood limits in one person, coupled with the Tensou technique, which had no side effects, was enough to drive Mabu wild. So, despite Mabu's initial hesitation, she became very proactive, which delighted Hyūga Teru. However, Mabu, now a bit less uninhibited, had become as shy as a little girl. "Forget it, dear. Raikage-sama's injury. I'm very concerned, but if you're willing to join the Kumagakure village, I think I can act as your guarantor. Then I'll be able to do whatever you want with me." Mabu's eyes were filled with hope. This really surprised Hyūga Teru, but maybe Mabu was not really moved. It was because he weighed the pros and cons and felt that it would be better to win him over. Although a large number of people were lost this time, if a strong person like him joined Kumagakure, then the previous losses would not be considered losses at all. I have to say that this woman is very rational. She is worthy of being someone who can make a conscious choice under adverse circumstances. Although he really wanted to agree, at most he could get a pseudonym to travel back and forth between the two places. But the iron-headed Raikage probably wouldn't agree to Mabu's request. Hyūga Teru could only shake his head. "If AI had died just now, I might have considered it. But he is still alive, and you won't allow me to kill him. I guess going back to the village with you will cause big trouble, so I'm not going back." However, Mabu never gave up. "No, Raikage-sama isn't that kind of person. I believe he can tolerate you. I'll try to persuade him. After all, you probably have some connection to Kumagakure. There must be some misunderstanding." A multitude of thoughts raced through Mabu's mind, including the possibility that the fighting faction had persecuted certain members of Hyūga Teru's family, even committing extremely egregious acts. This was the reason why, after Hyūga Teru grew up and fully mastered his physical gifts, he returned to the village and constantly retaliated against the fighting faction. While their behavior was atrocious, it wasn't unacceptable, given their strength. While the Raikage was a bit of a problem, if she could make a promise, she should be able to secure a chance for Hyūga Teru to stay in Kumagakure. Hyūga was speechless, noticing Mabu's insistence on staying, even impersonating herself as a Kumagakure native. But upon reflection, the misunderstanding seemed plausible, and he acknowledged it. I don't think the Raikage is that tolerant, and the conflict between me and the village is absolutely irreconcilable, nor do I want to, but those who need to be killed have been killed. From now on, as long as Kumagakure doesn't bother me, I won't bother Kumagakure either. As for returning to the village, don't mention it again. You'd better not tell the villagers about our relationship. Whenever I miss you again, I'll secretly return to the village to see you. At this time, Hyūga Teru gently stroked Mabuai's pretty face. Although she didn't get a satisfactory answer, Mabuai suddenly felt that everything she had just endured was not so unbearable. She probably knew the Raikage better than anyone else. After killing so many Kumagakure people, Hyūga Teru would probably be hard to forgive. She knew Hyūga Teru was right, but the complex emotions of her first time had made her feel a kind of dependence on him. She couldn't help but want to fight for it as much as possible. Now, Hyūga Teru's not-so-perfect proposal calmed her down a lot. Okay then, but don't lie to me about coming back to see me. Otherwise, I'll just find someone and marry myself. Though there wasn't any genuine affection between them, Mabuai had at least made her mark. Hearing this, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but feel a little irritated, pinching her hips fiercely. If you say that, don't blame me for coming too often, keeping you up all day long. Hyūga Teru's eyes blazed, and Mabuai couldn't help but feel a little frightened. She had just experienced Hyūga Teru's strength. While his muscles weren't overly developed, his waist and abdominal strength were beyond imagination, like a motor with inexhaustible power. Seeing Hyūga Teru's anger made her legs go weak. Fearing he'd be carried back to the hotel and given a beating, she couldn't help but hold down Hyūga Teru's restless hand. Husband, maybe next time. I'm so tired today, I can't take it anymore. Hyūga Teru laughed and put his arm around her waist. Then I'll let you go for now. I'm not someone who doesn't know how to be gentle with women. That's all for today. I'll go back and try to persuade that stubborn Raikage. If you dare to cause me trouble again, it won't be just a matter of 2 arms next time. Mabuai nodded repeatedly as if relieved. Almost the next second, the two of them entered the space covered by the light film again. Seeing this strange scene again still surprised Mabuai. You may never reach this level in your lifetime, so you'd better look forward to your belly. Mabuai couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. It wasn't just because of the heaven-sending technique, which could never reach the level of Hyūga Teru. It was also because of her belly that Hyūga Teru mentioned. If Hyūga Teru could never return to Kumagakure, even if she was pregnant, wouldn't she have no father? Wouldn't the villagers gossip about her? Speaking of which, husband, why are you able to practice the art of heaven's gift so well? You shouldn't be from my family, right? I've never seen you before. Well, Hyūga Teru groaned for a moment before saying, just think of me as a 1 in a million genius. I guess even if you were pregnant with my child, you wouldn't be able to give birth to a child with the same talent as me. If you really want to have one, you'd better have more. Mabuai couldn't help but roll her eyes at Hyūga Teru. You're so frivolous. If you don't want to talk about it, just don't talk about it. What about having more children? Do you think I'm a sow? Hyūga Teru couldn't help but smile. You know what? Some people really rely on sows to reach the pinnacle of life. Don't underestimate sows. Mabuai lost her temper even more. She thought Hyūga Teru was talking nonsense, pouted in anger, and ignored him. Speaking of which, we will have to keep our distance in a while. I feel like I should take this opportunity to be more considerate to you. Considerate? Mabuai was confused and wanted to ask something when she saw Hyūga Teru coming closer to her. The considerate you're talking about? Well, before she could finish her words, Mabuai's mouth was blocked and she understood what kind of considerateness she meant. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89: Yi Kang's Tragic Experience. Back to the Wind Country Desert again. It has completely changed. There are neatly arranged corpses everywhere. Although the survivors Chiyo, Ebizo, Yakura and Ai have all had their chakras sealed. They are also guarded by Minato Pika and Kakashi Pika. But they are still very humane and can move around freely. So, collecting the bodies of their companions became the last thing they could do. Shio and Ebizo were no longer surprised by the death of their companions. Yakira and Ai were heartbroken, kneeling upright in front of their companions' bodies with sad faces. Even when Hyūga Teru appeared with his arm around Mabu's waist, he didn't notice it immediately. It was not until the two separated that he was discovered to have returned. Ai clenched and relaxed his fists, relaxed and clenched them again. When he saw that Mabu was safe and sound, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he didn't know what kind of deal Mabu was called to do. While he could accept dying in battle, he couldn't accept letting a woman suffer humiliation and live in shame. Mabu Ai, aside from a slightly reddened face, seemed fine, which eased his nerves a bit. Then, he glared at Hyūga Teru with utter fury. "Hey, you, what the hell did you take Mabu Ai with you? Why are you back just now?" Hyūga Teru spread his hands, a look of innocence on his face. "Do you think I'd bully a woman? Mabu Ai is fine, she just helped me with some clever tasks. After all, it would be a waste to leave her so smart and capable unused." Hyūga Teru spoke seriously. But Mabu Ai's face flushed red to her feet. "What's the need for cleverness? Clever and capable. That was a perfect double entendre. It was so ingenious, yet there wasn't a single flaw. It made Ai want to dig a hole in the ground and crawl inside." After hearing what Hyūga Teru said, Ai really believed Mabu Ai had simply done something very professional and relevant. She felt reassured. After all, Mabu Ai's body didn't seem to be ailing at all. But in order to eliminate the abnormality, Hyūga Teru had used his divine reincarnation technique to eliminate the pain. That's why she appeared fine. Seeing something strange on Mabu Ai's face again, Ai immediately grew anxious. "Mabu Ai, what's wrong? Did he bully you just now? Just tell me. If he did, I wouldn't let him get away with it, even if it cost me my life." While there was some bullying, it was quite gentle. Especially since he'd helped with treatment afterwards, Mabu Ai felt less resentful. The Raikage's protective attitude troubled her, and she couldn't help but sigh. "Lord Raikage, I'm really fine, absolutely fine. It's mainly because I was doing some account checks with this gentleman, which is why I'm so busy now." "Account checks?" Ai paused in doubt, then stared at Hyūga Teru with a strange gaze, even disdain in her eyes. Hyūga Teru seemed strangely handsome, but he still couldn't handle delicate matters. He even took his secretary away for so long just to check the accounts. "Since we're done, can I take her with me? My word is true. Leave now. Remember not to bother me again, because I don't intend to bother you either. We'll keep our distance from each other from now on." Ai, however, couldn't help but seethe with irritation. "Don't jump to conclusions. You'd better not reveal any flaws. If you do, I'll continue to lead my men after you. You've already killed enough people in Kumagakure. This is absolutely unforgivable." Hyūga Teru shrugged, his expression nonchalant. "Whatever. I just hope you don't implicate others when the time comes. HMPH, don't get cocky. One day, I'll defeat you head-on." Ai's chest rose and fell violently, but he couldn't stand the opponent's overwhelming strength, so he could only maintain a high aura. There was much he needed to endure, and revenge for his father's murder at Iwagakure had yet to be avenged. He wasn't in a good position to clash with Hyūga again right now, so he could only lash out with some harsh words. As the saying goes, it's better to lose the battle than the battle itself. But this made Mabu's heart pound, fearing that Hyūga would suddenly lose his temper and give the Raikage another lecture. Although he was gentle with her, there were probably some differences between men and women. To her surprise, Hyūga deliberately glanced in her direction, then fixed his gaze on Ai. "Miss Mabu, following a leader like you is truly exhausting, but considering she's helped me so much, I'll keep my promise. I said I'd let you go, and I will." The anger in Ai's chest seemed to flare up again, but he didn't flare up again, snorting coldly and letting it go. He would never accept being saved by a woman. It had happened once, and he didn't want it again. Seeing Ai had contained her temper, Mabu breathed a sigh of relief and gave Hyūga a look of apology. Hyūga Teru returned a doting look, which touched Mabu slightly. Then, Ai, carrying the large scroll containing the corpse, set out on the road back to Kumagakure. Mabu had Minato Pika's mark on her body, so that Hyūga Teru could arrive in time if she was in any danger. As for Yakira Ebizo and the others, Hyūga Teru didn't intend to pay much attention to them. After removing the seals on them, he let them go. After all, compared to their previous chats and laughter, Yakira completely hated Hyūga Teru, so he didn't want to be too nice to him. Not only did the capture operation against Hyūga Teru fail, but it also resulted in the loss of a large number of manpower. When Yekira and the others returned, they were criticized by the villagers. Yekira spent many days in a row suffering from recurring nightmares. The incident fermented for about 3 days. Yekira could no longer leave the house. Although she had not made the plan, but only provided intelligence, she didn't expect so many people to blame her for the failure. However, she thought Chiyo and Ebizo might be in a worse situation, so she let go of her grievance. However, in reality, Chiyo and Ebizo had no impact at all. With Raza, the power-conscious Kazekage, around, he would spare no effort if given the opportunity to strike at Yekira. Therefore, Chiyo and Ebizo lived comfortably. They both felt a little bit of this, but they didn't stop him. Raza needed to curry favor with him to maintain power. It was perfectly normal. The entire Sans village was denouncing Yekira. If Yekira didn't still have trust in the village and felt guilty, he would probably have committed suicide like White Fang, unable to bear the insults. Yekira's retreat, after staying at home for so long, gradually bored everyone. The anger gradually subsided. However, seeing this scene, Raza felt deeply dissatisfied, and with a gloomy expression, he began to consider other countermeasures. Chapter 90. Don't want to work hard anymore? In the days following the joint ambush, Hyūga Teru continued to sign in with the Uchiha, and within 7 days, he had acquired the moon reading technique. Even Tsukuyomi was useless to him now, and he wasn't particularly moved by the acquisition. What truly delighted him was that Mabu was a quick learner, increasingly understanding his preferences. The two of them clashed countless times over the course of 7 days. If it weren't for the inconvenience, they would likely have spent the entire day together. But the natural consequence was that Hyūga Teru somewhat neglected Hinata Natsu, along with Muren and Nono. Nono felt strangely that Hyūga Teru had requested less special services, and perhaps this was the reason she made a decision that surprised Hyūga Teru. As Hyūga Teru was about to leave, she handed him a note with an address and time written on it. Hyūga Teru, who was incredibly familiar with Konoha, knew the address was an inn. The inn's room was clearly marked, and at the bottom of the note, a small message read, "I don't want to work hard anymore." It didn't take much thought to figure out what this meant, especially since it was scheduled for the evening. Although Nono's repeated inconsiderateness had left him feeling rather bored, he still accepted the opportunity. After all, he'd spent so much money, so he couldn't refuse without some interest. After receiving the note, Hyūga Teru activated his future vision to see what was going on. It seemed like there was nothing wrong at all. He'd actually gotten the first kill. It was incredible. This woman was so chaste. She'd been a spy for at least a decade, probably spying in all 4 major villages. And she could still remain chaste. Surely there were women in every village close to her? She'd probably contacted a lot of people to gather intelligence, at least 10 per village, so that would be 50, right? And this guy was Magneto? No wonder he was so inexplicably proud. The thought of conquering a Magneto was quite strange. At night, in a secluded inn in Konoha, the air was hazy, filled with the faint scent of the sea. The man lay on the tatami with a look of comfort on his face, with one arm around the worried-looking woman next to him. Both of them were breathing slightly, but the woman looked more tired. Both of them were naked, but the woman still covered her body with her hands, as if she still had a little modesty and could be covered up. What's there to cover up? Covering it up now doesn't mean you'll be looked at less in the future? How did you figure it out? Haven't you been too busy recently? After all, Mabu-ai was very petite, and Hyūga Teru, who had just tasted the sweetness, forgot about Nono for a while. But under such circumstances, Nono still compromised, which surprised Hyūga Teru. If he didn't have the vision to see the future, he wouldn't have been so confident and bold to take her. Nono said quietly while lying on his side. "I just noticed you smelled like someone else, and I didn't want you to keep making the same mistake. Of course, I had my own selfish motives, too. After all, you're rich, and I need it. I've thought about it a lot. I'm going to marry anyone anyway, so I don't crave love anymore. Instead, I'd rather choose you, who's rich." Hyūga Teru couldn't help but tighten his grip around her waist, whispering in her ear. "I don't know if what you said is true, but today's experience is real. The wonderful life I promised you is real, too. Congratulations on making a wise choice. Be a good wife to your wealthy family from now on." Nono couldn't help but turn around and look directly at Hyūga Teru. "So what's that feminine scent you carry? Aren't you going to explain?" Hyūga Teru couldn't help but pinch her nose and smiled. They're not some shady women, anyway. If you want to see them, you'll have a chance later. In a while, when I feel confident enough, I'll bring them to Konoha. Them. Nono's face was filled with shock. You have so many women out there? How could you be so greedy? Hyūga Teru couldn't help but curl his lips. More women is greedy, two is greedy too. If you really can't stand it, then take some money and live a good life. I've got what I want anyway, and life can go on normally without you. While other women naturally accept their own scumbag tendencies, there will always be those who can't stand it. Hyūga Teru had long anticipated this day, so it wasn't surprising that Nono said that. But to his surprise, Nono pinched his waist hard. Kick me away so you can find more women, right? I'm not falling for your tricks. Don't even think about getting rid of me or finding more women. Hyūga Teru, who had always been as strong as steel, felt only a slight swelling in his waist, but nothing more. He couldn't help but soothe Nono's temper. I'm afraid you can't handle it alone. Some things can't be controlled just by wanting to. Even if your treatment is complete, do you still have the strength to fight again? Nono tried to struggle to her feet, but the effort felt like she was falling apart, her whole body aching. She couldn't help but cast a resentful look at him. It's all your fault, you're like a donkey, with no self-control. How am I supposed to get home tonight? Hyūga Teru smiled and sat up, rubbing her belly. You were already foolish before you got pregnant. Now that we've reached this point, you should at least rely on me a little. Didn't you make this decision to ease the burden of life? If you really want to go home tonight, can't I carry you? Hyūga Teru said as he began to dress. Nono struggled to get up and tried to get dressed, but her hands were barely able to lift. Finally, with a look of reluctance, she got dressed with Hyūga Teru's help and some squeaks. Then she was carried to the orphanage. Nono didn't say a word along the way, and Hyūga Teru thought she was in a bad mood and didn't bother her too much. After finally arriving at the orphanage, under the gaze of the old monks and nuns who were like parents, she entered the orphanage. To be honest, Hyūga Teru was still quite embarrassed. Fortunately, Nono didn't show too many strange expressions. Even though she was extremely tired, she still looked safe and sound, so the two did not suspect much. After entering the room, Hyūga Teru gave her several scrolls and slowly used the God-level reincarnation to relieve the pain in her limbs. Why is your medical ninjutsu so unique? I feel like even Lady Tsune doesn't have this special feeling like yours. God-level reincarnation, how can this be a medical ninjutsu? It's clearly a resurrection technique, okay? Hyūga Teru didn't say much, just responded calmly. Everyone has their own secrets. I think you should focus on the harvest and see if you are satisfied. Chapter 91, Pharmacist Kabuto. Having regained her strength, Nono unrolled the scroll and immediately began summoning. A massive bundle of banknotes, nearly a man's height, suddenly appeared before her. Seeing such a large stack of money, Nono was momentarily stunned. Isn't this a bit much? Hundreds of millions in this bundle, right? Hyūga Teru put his arm around her waist and sniffed her hair. We're family, why are you being so polite? If you really want to thank me, why not give me a bigger reward? Speaking of the Danzo, if you dare to bully me, tell me, there's no reconciliation between that guy and me. If it weren't for the time being, I would have fought him long ago. It sounded a bit magical. After all, in Nono's mind, Yakushi Danzo was a nightmarish and terrifying being, unbeatable by ordinary people. She didn't believe Hyūga Teru could truly handle him. Still, her words touched her, and she couldn't help but squeeze his hand. Danzo has stopped harassing me now. I've been completely free for a long time. I only showed up at your house to make some extra money. Just live your life well from now on. Don't try to vent my anger or anything like that. I just want to live a peaceful life. Hyūga Teru had already considered what to do with Danzo. While it was annoying to leave him alone, it seemed that Danzo wouldn't have the chance to persecute anyone around him. As for killing Danzo immediately, Hyūga Teru wasn't inclined to do so. After all, killing Danzo still had the Third Hokage, and this nest of snakes and rats would make Konoha a filthy mess. The Third Hokage's compromising approach wasn't much better than Danzo's. It would be better to keep Danzo alive and keep him under control. Of course, that wasn't going to mean leaving Danzo alone. He'd have to pull out his teeth and put a collar on him. But now wasn't the time. Seeing Nono's pleading expression, Hyūga Teru knew she didn't realize how powerful her man was. After all, He hadn't used his full strength, so there was no point in explaining anything. He simply went along with her. Okay, I'll listen to you. Anyway, please take care of me in the future, my new wife. It's weird to call you new wife. Do you say that to everyone you accept? I think you'd better not put everyone together. It will be so awkward. Then Nono couldn't help but say this, then turned around and stared at Hyūga Teru. Why don't we just keep the relationship like this for now? I don't know how to face Zyuoxia, Nono lowered her head guiltily. However, Hyūga Teru held her face in his hands. In fact, when Zyuoxia invited you to my house, she had already planned to make you her sister. I think it's better for you to meet her earlier, otherwise it will affect your sisterly relationship if you're late. What? Nono couldn't help but be surprised. Why would she think so? I thought she didn't know your true face at all. She has been kept in the dark by you, Hyūga Teru said with a smile. You've actually been the only one kept in the dark. Your opinions are superficial, but I never expected someone like you, who's been a spy for so long, to be so trusting. Let's talk it over with Zyuoxia tomorrow or sometime soon. If you're embarrassed, I can do it for you. Nono's face looked strange and awkward, but before he could say anything, Hyūga's hands lifted his face. You've always been quite thin-skinned. I'll do the talking. After all, I have a responsibility, don't I? Speaking of which, can you take me on a tour of this place? It's late at night, but this is my first time here. I'll just explore and do nothing, without making any noise. The more Hyūga spoke, the more suspicious Nono grew. It felt like his words should be interpreted the other way around. Suddenly, his mind was in turmoil. Seeing Nono's hesitation, Hyūga unconsciously let go of his hand. Is it okay if I keep my distance? Actually, I'm not someone who doesn't know my limits. Considering it was your first time, I stopped at just a few, otherwise, I wouldn't let you go until dawn. Pharmacist Nono gave Hyūga Teru a stern look. That's a scary thing to say. Has Konatsu always been playing with you like this? Well, Konatsu is actually a little weak, much weaker than you, so she can't really play like this, Hyūga Teru said, opening the door and inviting him in. Nono, his limbs no longer aching, had some free time, and Hyūga Teru kept a reasonable distance. So, he lowered his guard and took him on a tour of the orphanage. After all her years as a spy, she had never imagined having a close relationship with a man, let alone one who would come to the orphanage to help her look after the children. Although she didn't know what Hyūga Teru was thinking, her eyes somehow moistened. She had never considered relying on someone. As for his resolve tonight, it was only forced upon him. Led by Nono, Hyūga Teru carefully observed each room, observing the sleeping children. His main reason for this visit was to see the potential future big boss, Kabuto Yakushi. His main Gekkai technique's futuristic vision indicated that he might encounter Kabuto Yakushi today. Bang! The sudden sound of something being knocked over caught Atu's attention. I'll go check it out. It must be one of the kids who wasn't asleep and accidentally knocked something over. Nono reacted immediately, heading towards the source of the noise. Hyūga Teru naturally followed, smiling. Let's go together. After all, I'm not an outsider, am I? Nono was stunned for a moment, but unable to stop them, he could only let them go. The two quickly arrived at the source of the noise, only to see that the old nun and monk had already arrived, clutching the hands of a gray-haired child. You kid, don't you know you should go to bed now? What are you doing here? That's right, it's so late and you're causing trouble for everyone. You'll probably wake up a lot of people. Nono saw the two people scolding each other, and hurriedly walked over to let them let go. Don't talk about him anymore. He probably just arrived and isn't used to it yet. It's normal that he doesn't know the rules. After saying that, he leaned over and touched his head. Cow, it's so late, what are you looking at? Yakushi Kabuto looked at Nono aggrievedly, then pointed at the wall clock. I can't see the time, can't see the time. Nono was stunned for a moment, then shook his hand in front of his eyes and found that he was not blind, so he took off his glasses and put them on him. Can you see now? The sadness on Yakushi Kabuto's face disappeared, and he nodded. It's really okay, but these glasses, Nono couldn't help but smile and touched his head. It's okay, you wear them, I have more. Chapter 92 Danzo takes action. After a small episode, Hyūga Teru finally met the future boss. Now that he has seen him, he will not leave it alone in the future. Just before he starts his spy career, the future of Yakushi Nono will be changed. In addition, Scorpion will stay by his side. Kabuto should not go astray. After Kabuto went back to the room obediently, Nono handed a scroll to the old monk and the old nun. As if they heard something unbelievable, both of them showed great surprise on their faces. They looked at Hyūga Teru with complicated expressions, which made him feel embarrassed. These two people should be regarded as Nono's elders, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are relatives. He carried Nono back and gave her so much money, which obviously shows that they have a special relationship. However, although they are elders, after the two old people said a few words, they stopped looking at Hyūga Teru strangely. It is obvious that the power of money is so great that they ignore the bad things about him. Why, have you talked it over with him? They don't seem to object much. After the old monk and nun left, Hyūga Teru walked over to Nono. But he was met with a roll of the eyes. You know everything again? Why don't you go back? Are you going to stay the night with me? Hyūga Teru shook his head. Of course not, I just wanted to know. By the way, did that child just now lose his memory? Nono was shocked. You can tell the two. She wanted to ask Hyūga Teru how he knew medical skills, but when she remembered that he had just been treated, and his treatment techniques seemed very advanced, she didn't ask. Hyūga Teru replied with a faint smile. I can tell. It's mainly because my medical ninjutsu is better than yours. By the way, why don't you leave him to me for a while? Maybe I can restore his memory. Nono couldn't help but hesitate. Actually, being an orphan, it's not so bad that he can't remember his past. It's better not to restore his memory, but what if he's not an orphan? If he still has family, wouldn't he be separated from them forever if he continues like this? Hyūga Teru, who was familiar with the plot, knew that Kabuto was indeed an orphan. He just said that on purpose to make it easier to transform Yakashi Kabuto. The children in the orphanage had always been a soft spot in Nono's heart. If they still had parents to take care of them, she would naturally not be reluctant to let them go. Without much hesitation, she nodded. Okay, but I'll have to watch from the side. The child is a bit shy. In reality, Nono felt that Hyūga Teru might have some special intentions. Although there was no evidence, she intuitively felt that something was amiss. Refusing would obviously make the matter more obvious, so Hyūga Teru agreed without hesitation. Of course, no problem. Bring them to my place tomorrow. Speaking of which, you don't have any glasses anymore? I just took the time to buy you a new pair. See if you like them, Hyūga Teru said as he took out a brand new glasses case. The box looked a bit expensive. Opening the box, he saw a pair of red-framed, slightly fashionable glasses inside. Seeing these glasses, Nono couldn't help but frown. Isn't this too flashy? They look very expensive. Fancy or not, it was mainly because she thought her previous glasses were too old-fashioned. Although they had a bit of the vibe of a girl with glasses, they still lacked a bit of color. Red was a perfect fit. As soon as Nono put them on, her hidden fiery personality was highlighted, and she looked indescribably bright. She instantly transformed into a female teacher, and a very hot one at that. Hyūga Teru felt a little itchy. What's so expensive? If they look good on you, let alone a pair of glasses. Even gems worth tens of millions of taels would fill your neck. Forget the gems. Give them to me and I'll sell them later. I'll take the glasses. You should go back. It's getting late. However, Hyūga Teru put his arm around her waist. Actually, you could send a shadow clone back, or you could come with me. Nono suddenly became anxious. How can that be? You're out to do bad things anyway. Sending a shadow clone back is so insincere. Hyūga Teru rolled his eyes and nodded. How about I send a shadow clone to stay with you? Nono said after a moment's pause. Okay, leave the shadow clone behind and you can go. She looked a little sullen, but in reality, she felt she couldn't convince Hyūga Teru to stay, so she reluctantly agreed. After leaving a shadow clone, Hyūga Teru left. The next day, Nono arrived early with Kabuto. After explaining the situation to Hinata Natsu with great difficulty, there wasn't a major conflict. Instead, their relationship seemed to grow closer. Thanks to Sasori, Kabuto's latent sands manipulation technique was unlocked. Upon learning of his parents' death, Kabuto wasn't particularly saddened, but instead comforted Nono. It was clear that the child was incredibly sensible, and Hinata Teru felt the need for proper instruction. Nono naturally couldn't resist, and though she hesitated for a long time, Hyūga Teru's soft and hard tactics made her unable to refuse. In addition to Kabuto's basic training, Hyūga Teru also taught him medical knowledge. He wasn't very knowledgeable in this area, but Sasori was quite accomplished. After all, he was a unique being who could survive by shrinking into a barrel. How could he have become such a monstrous being without understanding the human body? Kabuto's teachings primarily focused on basic human anatomy, with the rest consisting of ordinary training techniques. Life passed peacefully and fulfillingly. Until one day, the sudden arrival of Danzo's men disrupted the tranquility of Hyūga Teru and the girls. It was Pika Itachi, who secretly protected Nono, who took down a group of root ninjas and brought Nono to his side. "You rat, so powerful, how did you manage to take down so many people in an instant?" Nono immediately inquired about Pika Itachi. Although Pika Itachi rarely appeared, this yellow-skinned rat immediately let Nono know that it was arranged by Hyūga Teru. After bringing Nono into the house, Hyūga Teru probably learned the general situation from Pika Itachi. Danzo seemed to want to take Nono away as a threat to Hyūga Teru. Hyūga Teru had actually anticipated this. Zyosha already has two, so you can't be left behind. You stay here for now. I think it's time to finish off the route. However, Nono squeezed his hand tightly. Take them with you. Danzo's forces are more than just the ones who attacked me. You can't handle them alone. Hyūga Teru patted her hand. Honestly, you should at least have some confidence in me. After all, these are my pets. I am naturally stronger than my pets. Chapter 93, Going straight to the root. Yakushi Nono remained persistent, even picking up Pika Itachi and tucking him into Hyūga Teru's arms. Take it with you if I tell you to, or I won't let you go. You have no idea how terrifying Danzo is, so bringing an extra helper is a bit of a safety net. Hyūga Teru had originally planned to go alone, but on second thought, it seemed better to take Minato Pika with him. Compared to the other two, Minato Pika could seal, preserving as many root members as possible. However, he didn't know where the root was, so he looked at Yakushi Nono. By the way, you should know where the root base is, right? Can you give me the address? Asking a former root member where the root was obviously a highly unrealistic question. But after all, the two had been close for almost a week, so they must have some feelings for each other, right? Hyūga Teru couldn't deny that he was asking this question as a test. Of course, the main reason was that Nono was a little different today. After all, he had just urged him to take Pika Itachi with him. He shouldn't be shy about the question of the root's location. Hyūga barely had to wait before Nono replied. I'll give you an address. Remember to be extra careful. If all else fails, just run away. At least you can save your life. This puzzled Hyūga, as if she had become a completely different person. She was clearly terrified of Danzo, but now it was as if she had switched sides and sided with him. Speaking of which, you've changed quite a bit. Are you finally willing to face your true inner self? Or are you just too reluctant to give up your current life? Danzo was looking for me in the first place. Even if I died, it wouldn't affect you, would it? Nono's temper immediately flared up, and she pinched his waist hard. Can't you think better of me? After all, if I hadn't suddenly gotten pregnant, I wouldn't have devoted my whole life to you. You're really the only thing on your mind, it seems. You never stop thinking about it, and you're always up to no good. You don't take any safety precautions. Hearing Nono's complaints, Hyūga was startled and couldn't help but touch her belly. You got it so soon. Your chances of winning are pretty good. No wonder it's changed so drastically. If that's the case, then continue to look forward to a wonderful life ahead. In my eyes, people like Danzo are nothing but traitors. If killing him weren't so troublesome, I would have killed him long ago. Nono couldn't help but cup his hands and sigh. You're so overconfident. I don't know what to say, but don't be careless when the time comes. Danzo has a large number of people from famous families in the village under his command, the Yamanaka clan, the Aburame clan, even your own Hyūga clan. The root also has secret techniques plundered from other villages, beyond our imagination. Hyūga Teru gave Nono a reassuring look. Don't worry. The Raikage isn't even my match, so what's Danzo? I'll just take Hokage with me. Hikari can help seal their chakra. Although the matter had already become a bit turbulent, Hyūga Teru still wanted to handle it properly. Apart from anything else, Konoha's living conditions were much better than other places. With the Hyūga clan still around, it was impossible to take them all with them. Unless absolutely necessary, they didn't want to engage in a direct confrontation with Konoha. Taking Minato Pikachu with him, Hyūga Teru first went to the orphanage. He had Minato Pikachu ready to bring anyone knocked down by Pikachu Itachi to the root, to prevent detection by the Anbu. As for Hyūga Teru, He used the heaven sentence technique to reach the root, using his future vision to predict his opponent's arrival. Who dares to trespass into the root? As soon as they reached the door, several ninjas were already pressing their swords' hilts, ready to fight. Hyūga Teru infused his flying thunder god Kune with chakra. Then, Minato Pikachu led a group of root members, clad in the Eight Tails chakra, to the front of the root. Almost instantly, the tailed beast cloaks on these men converged on Minato Pikachu. Without even needing Hyūga Teru's command, he charged into the crowd. Instantly, a burst of golden light blazed. The root's gates swiftly formed a vast golden net, enveloping the root ninjas and instantly enveloping them in an octopus-like sealing net. What's going on? This kind of special ninjutsu, and even a sealing jutsu, was unleashed by a mere rat. This speed is incredible, perhaps even comparable to Golden Flash. This guy has so much backing, no wonder he dared to come to the root. We must report this to Danzo-sama as soon as possible, or the root will be in jeopardy. The leading root ninja immediately ran back, while the others, in perfect harmony, formed a defensive formation, attempting to stop Hyūga Teru and Minato Pika. But before the leading root ninja had taken a few steps, a golden figure suddenly appeared, slamming into him with a ball-sized blue energy sphere. Bang! The leading Enbu ninja was sent flying before he could even react. His clothing ripped across his abdomen, leaving a mark left by the spinning ball. Almost a moment he collided with a wall, blood oozed from the mask's chin. He collapsed, his entire body drooping like a wilted eggplant. As for the other root ninjas, depleted of chakra, they collapsed to the ground in a flash of blue. Without any obstruction, the man and the beast could finally enter without worry. But while the root was hidden deep in the shadows of Konoha, its security was no less than that of the Hokage building. In fact, because the root base was larger than the Hokage building, the security was even more rigorous. This wasn't just because the root ninjas were numerous, but also because Danzo had been engaging in shady activities and feared potential harm. Whenever any part of the root base was attacked, personnel from other locations would quickly rush to the scene and locate the intruder. Shortly after learning about the root base and the barrier from Minato Pika, Hyūga Teru spotted 2 root ninja units. 12 of them, each with a murderous aura, as if they had just emerged from a sea of blood and corpses. As soon as they met, their gazes were fixed on Hyūga Teru's vital points. Anyone skilled in the root will be killed without mercy, the leader gave the order. Without a word, the others nimbly dodged around Hyūga Teru and Minato Pikachu. Their blades, as long as steel, gleamed with a chilling cold light. Many of their blades were coated in a layer of rapidly flowing chakra. Konoha Rinnegan Jutsu. Crescent Moon Dance, Konoha Rinnegan Jutsu. Wind Cut, Konoha Ryu. Willow. In an instant, the figures and swords of the root ninjas vanished into thin air, unleashing coordinated, impenetrable attacks on Hyūga Teru at an incredibly fast and unpredictable speed. Chapter 94 Izanagi. It's truly impressive, cultivating so many formidable swordsmen. But they're still far from enough to deal with me, Hyūga Teru muttered, motionless, before his azure eyes shone brightly. Tenseigan mode. Activate. In the nick of time, Hyūga's body was instantly enveloped in a sheath of azure chakra, and a black sphere appeared, transforming into a massive shield. Bang, bang, bang. All the swift and powerful slashes struck the black sphere, sending up countless dazzling sparks. This stunned all the root members. Not only was the massive black sphere intact, but their swords were nicked. How? How could this be? What is this? Even the sword has a huge nick. Can this black sphere be made to withstand steel? There's something strange about this black sphere. Everyone, keep your distance. At the warning of the more cautious ninja, the root ninjas retreated. But the moment they pushed back, the black shield suddenly shrank into a black stick. Gravity, a root ninja, about to dodge and retreat, was suddenly grabbed by the waistband and launched into the air, hurtling towards Hyūga Teru at breakneck speed. Oh no. Why is my body out of control? No. What's that? Swish, swish, swish. The hands and feet of the Anbu ninjas were repeatedly pierced by the Deo-seeking jade stick, pinning them to the ground, unable to move. Minato Pikachu was also busy, sealing several others at the same time. As a result, all 24 Anbu ninjas were pinned to the ground, their movements restricted. In a matter of moments, Danzo appeared with another group of root ninjas. In all these years, you're the first to intrude upon my root and kill so many. Danzo leaned on his cane with one hand, his cold eyes fixed on Hyūga Teru. How? I told you about the raid. These people aren't dead, They're just knocked unconscious, afraid they'd get in the way. As for why we're doing this, it's probably because we have no other choice but to imprison you first. Imprison us. A deathly look crossed Danzo's face, and his eyes grew cold. Just you and a rat, and you think you can imprison us? Hyūga Teru sneered. Who's the rat? I don't think you, old man, have the slightest idea. At that moment, one of the root ninjas appeared in the gap, and one of them formed hand seals with both hands, aiming directly at Hyūga Teru. Heart transmigration technique, ahum. The ninja suddenly lost consciousness and collapsed, being quickly supported by a nearby ninja. Hyūga Teru's eyes suddenly lost focus, his expression changing drastically. Seeing this, Danzo couldn't help but curl his lips. Although he didn't know the heart transmigration technique, he had seen countless victims of it. Clearly, the jutsu had been successfully activated, and everything else was simple. Puff. Just as Danzo was feeling elated, Yamanaka Fang behind him suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, blurring the vision of the Ambu ninja who had been supporting him. What's going on? What the hell is going on? The heart transformation technique, it succeeded, but it also failed. I didn't expect his mental strength to be so formidable. Yamanaka Fang managed a few words weakly. Meanwhile, Danzo saw Hyūga Teru regain his composure in an instant. He glared at him provocatively, as if hoping to be controlled just a few more times. All of you, attack, no matter the casualties. For years, no one had ever acted so arrogantly in front of Danzo. Danzo's sinister eyes were as cold as an ice cellar. The moment he gave the order, the ninja around him leaped into action. Ninjutsu, kyune, and shurikens flew in unison. The advantage of numbers was instantly unleashed to its fullest potential. Years of collaboration fostered a tacit understanding, allowing all attacks to connect into a vast net, leaving Hyūga Teru no chance of escape. Boom 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 boom. The bombardment of fire-style detonating tags, combined with the enhanced firepower of wind-style, caused the flames to explode like bombs, unleashing terrifying energy. Yet, despite such a terrifying onslaught, a massive black shield not only absorbed all the firepower but also advanced smoothly. Your attacks are exciting. Let's all try our own attacks. Gravity. Hyūga Teru reached out into the air, and saw numerous root ninjas launched upward, unable to control their bodies, hurtling directly towards the center of the raging flames. Bang bang bang. The entourage slammed into the incredibly solid black shield, instantly engulfed by flames. The intense heat of the flames instantly scorched his clothes, burning them a brilliant crimson. Ah! What kind of ninjutsu is this strange attraction? None of the people sucked in were able to break free? Danzo, a man of many years, quickly suppressed his surprise. He quickly formed hand seals with his hands, his wrinkled mouth pouting like a withered chrysanthemum. Wind style. Vacuum ball. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several condensed wind bullets streaked through the air with a sharp whistle, continuously shooting towards Hyūga Teru's location. Seeing the powerful wind bullets coming, Hyūga Teru's expression remained unchanged, and he also extended his hand towards Danzo. Gravity. With a crackling sound, Danzo's legs and even his crutches slid straight down the ground for a moment. But then he suddenly soared into the air, flying towards the blazing sea of fire. This jutsu, its pull is so strong. If this continues, even I will be burned to death. The vacuum ball he had just launched had already hit the dying flames, rapidly expanding them several times over like gasoline. He couldn't absorb his own vacuum ball, but he'd probably consumed a large portion of the fire style from earlier. Fortunately, at that moment, he could still move his fingers. Danzo let out a miserable cry, but it quickly died. The scene shifted, and he was back to where he'd been. The people around him hadn't been absorbed, and hadn't even launched an attack. It was a little strange, but it must have been Izanagi who had reversed the bad outcome. Even his subordinates were safe, which made him feel relieved. After all, this was his first time using Izanagi. Everyone, use your chakra to absorb the soles of your feet, and then launch a collective attack. Danzo gave the order, and the root ninjas unleashed their jutsu one after another. Flames once again flew, engulfing Hyūga Teru. Just as Danzo was secretly rejoicing, his feet, firmly absorbing the root ninja with chakra, suddenly flew uncontrollably, even sending the bricks flying. Startled, Danzo retreated and unleashed a powerful wind style, but the mysterious gravitational pull dragged him further toward the flames. Impossible. This is impossible. In a moment of panic, he subconsciously activated Izanagi. Surprisingly, his hidden Sharingan failed him again. The activation was successful again. Chapter 95, Other Gods. Danzo's body healed, but no matter what he did, he would eventually be consumed by the flames, wailing. He was a seasoned warrior, and he knew it was a genjutsu. But no matter how he tried to break free, he couldn't break free. Meanwhile, Hyūga Teru had already bound all the surviving root ninjas, now blazing golden. As for Danzo, his chakra was also sealed. He then deployed numerous shadow clones to clean up the scene. Speaking of which, he was still very concerned about Danzo. He was somewhat curious about what would happen to Danzo after he was struck by Izanami. He wondered what the real Danzo would be like, and whether he could become a good person. After settling the other root ninjas and reassured Nono and the others that he was safe, he brewed a pot of tea and waited for Danzo to wake up. Even after the sun set, Danzo's eyes were filled with tears. His face, wrinkled with wrinkles, trembled slightly, as if he had witnessed something deeply moving. "I regret it so much, so much. Why didn't I act before Hiruzen?" Seeing Danzo's sudden sigh, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but fall into deep thought. This look of intense regret, perhaps a regret for a life-altering decision? Hyūga Teru pondered, and then thought of Senju Tobirama's soul-searching question. Honestly, I remember someone writing a novel specifically about this particular scene, a sudden time travel. I remember the protagonist traveling back in time, becoming Danzo, and then acting before the Third Hokage, offering to cover their retreat. In the end, Senju Tobirama didn't let him become Hokage. Ahem. He wouldn't tell Danzo about this, and besides, given Danzo's current state, he probably wouldn't believe it even if he told him. Danzo noticed Hyūga Teru's gaze, raised his weathered, cloudy eyes, and said with relief, "Young man, I can pretend that what happened today never happened. You should have held back on my men just now, right?" Danzo was expecting him to be able to tell how hard he'd hit. Danzo's words made Hyūga look odd, unsure whether to believe him or not. He activated his future vision to see what would happen if he agreed to Danzo's promise. To his surprise, Danzo seemed to have truly repented. For 3 or 4 days, he hadn't been visited by any of the nasty beings like the Third Hokage. Speaking of which, did this mean Danzo had truly changed for the better? Shocked, Hyūga didn't neglect Danzo any longer. He untied his restraints and instructed Minato Pik to unseal the others. "If that's the case, then we'll keep our distance from each other from now on." Danzo nodded solemnly. "No more, I finally figured it out. From now on, I'll burn my last drop of blood for Konoha and spend the rest of my life diligently atoning for my sins." Hyūga wasn't sure what sin Danzo was referring to. But the future vision indicated nothing was wrong, so that meant nothing was wrong. Soon, Hyūga left with Minato Pik, and the days that followed. As Hyūga Teru performed his usual check-in and enjoyed his life, he observed Danzo's activities. Unexpectedly, Danzo seemed to have transformed into a remarkably kind old man. His once intimidating face often wore a gentle smile, often appearing before troubled children with compassionate words. He seemed less like the gloomy Danzo of the past and more like the present Sandai. The Sandai was often puzzled by Danzo's sudden approach and attempt to seize his work. After several exchanges, he found Danzo to be like a mirror, seamless, allowing him to clearly see his own reflection. While strange, there was nothing wrong with him, as if everything was natural. Danzo's gentle, spring-like demeanor made the Sandai feel as if he were back in his school days. Danzo was still the same Danzo, still the ambitious and passionate young man. For a moment, the Sandai couldn't pursue Danzo further and simply let the matter go. Although his old friend had become strange. Yet, he felt a subtle touch, even a sense that this wasn't such a bad thing. There was something called youth that brought tears to his eyes and a flood of emotion. Uchiha clan sign-in for 7 days. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the main Gekkyō Jutsu, Kodomatsukami. Kodomatsukami allows undetected access to the opponent's mind and alters their will. Finally, I've obtained Kodomatsukami. Hyūga felt a sense of relief. Danzo had improved considerably, but he still had a dark past. Even if Izanami had revived his kindness, reality might still turn him back into a villain. Uchiha Madara had also experienced a youthful immaturity, but reality still broke him, turning him evil and becoming a powerful boss. Izanami wasn't the type to manipulate others' minds. Once her current strength wore off and she was battered and bruised, Danzo would likely return to his former self. It was only a matter of time, so it was better to resolve it this morning. After obtaining Kodomatsukami, Hinata didn't even bother experimenting with it before heading to the root base. Danzo was lying in his room, the light in his eyes gradually dimming. Danzo-sama, it's that young man again. He's trying to break into the root again. That young man? What does he want here? Danzo couldn't help but wonder, but after a flash of annoyance, he immediately regained his composure. He'd been frustrated lately because children, not to mention adults, were terrified at the sight of his face. He'd repeatedly told himself he should be more kind, believing it was his lack of kindness that made others afraid of him, not his appearance. So, after a brief moment of irritation with Hyūga Teru, he immediately regained his composure. Take me there immediately. Yes, the root ninja immediately led the way, and Danzo slowly followed. But before they'd gotten far, they heard the rattling of chains approaching. When he finally saw Hyūga Teru, he saw him slowly approaching, pulling a long line of root ninjas with him. His sky-blue robe, brimming with chakra, exuded an air of dominance. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Fourth Raikage has arrived. However, Danzo still didn't get angry, but only questioned him slightly seriously. Young man, why are you here again? You beat up my men again. Hyūga Teru grinned. Not only do I have to beat them, but you will also be beaten. But, I'm not someone who likes to waste resources. It's not easy for you, including yourself, to reach your current level, so I've decided that from now on, you will all submit to me and obey my orders. Danzo was stunned for a long time before speaking. Young man, your idea is too extreme. It's impossible for a person to be all-powerful. If you want to control someone else's life, you should also have the capacity to match it. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Unifying the Roots. Haha, how can you know about capacity if you don't try? Aren't you starting a new venture now? Why don't you believe others have enough capacity? Danzo remained calm in the face of Hyūga Teru's counter-question. I've lived longer than you and seen a lot. With my experience, even if something goes wrong with a new venture, I can adjust in time. The world is so big, and people's hearts are so mixed. It's hard for a young person like you to grasp many things. It's better for an old man like me to handle them. Danzo's words hinted at his arbitrary nature. This alone made Hyūga Teru unable to let him go. Hikaru, restrain this whining old man. Pika, Minato Pika trotted, and a special kunai flew out, reaching Danzo in the blink of an eye. 8 trigram seal, his short claws suddenly slapped Danzo, instantly unfurling a large net covered in incantations, capturing Danzo. Danzo wanted to immediately use a substitution technique or something, but it was too late. You young man, why don't you have the virtue of ninjutsu? Why do you suddenly attack me, a 50-year-old man? Hyūga Teru couldn't help but laugh. Why don't you have the virtue of ninjutsu? Didn't I warn you before I attacked? And it was a direct attack, so it was fair and square. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too slow. You couldn't even keep up with Hikaru's movements. Minato Pikachu's instant body movement was already incredibly fast, and with the addition of Flying Thunder God, it was incredibly fast. It was only natural that Danzo, an old man, couldn't stop him. Then, Hyūga Teru bound a series of root members with large iron chains, leaving them bewildered. What on earth is he trying to do? Keep us tied up like this? This guy is so ungrateful. Danzo-sama let him go before, and now he's causing trouble again. That's really too much? Despite his strength, he doesn't even take Danzo-sama seriously. The root ninjas were furious, trying to save face with words. But the next second, a terrifying arc of blue electricity suddenly erupted from Hyūga Teru, causing their faces to turn pale. With a crackle, the arc spread rapidly along the chains, reaching every root ninja, including Danzo. Although the powerful current was directed at hundreds of them simultaneously, each arc carried a powerful paralyzing and burning effect. Every root ninja was electrocuted, their bodies blackened, their hair standing on end. Many even experienced incontinence from the shock. Danzo, like someone with Parkinson's disease, continued to tremble even after the shock ceased. What the hell is he trying to do? Electrocute us to death? This guy is so abominable. If he wanted to kill us, why not just give us a quick death? He's using electricity to torture us, this bastard. I should have died with him rather than let him capture me. The root ninjas were furious, and even Danzo glared at Hyūga Teru with red eyes. It's okay that they just launched a sneak attack, but what's the point of electrocuting an old man like him now? The moment everyone's eyes were on him, he became the focus of everyone's attention. Hyūga Teru didn't feel anything wrong, instead he smiled and looked at them. Kodo Matsukami, in Hyūga Teru's azure eyes, a complex kaleidoscope pattern suddenly appeared, making everyone looking at him stunned. Greetings, Master Teru, whether it was Danzo or the other people in the route. They were all controlled by Hyūga Teru in an instant. From now on, the route is no longer a hidden danger, but his personal base. After controlling the route, Hyūga Teru took Yukito over to save her from wandering overseas all the time. And the little 8-tails and the little 2-tails were always arranged overseas to continue exploring the overseas world. Detection that the host has unified the route. The route has been opened as the third sign-in location. Please sign in promptly tomorrow. The third sign-in location has finally opened. I'm so excited. Although he was already nearly invincible, Hyūga Teru still longed to become even stronger. After all, the enemy wasn't limited to Uchiha Madara, he had to be at least stronger than Kaguya. With just the Samsara Eye and the Eternal Mage Gekyo, he probably couldn't defeat someone of Kaguya's level. It seemed as if Kaguya had deliberately let him go, allowing the Six Paths brothers to seal him away. After completing the unification of the route and bathing with Yukito in the separate hot springs at the route, Hyūga Teru brought along the pharmacist Nono. Why did you bring me here? Have you been completely controlled by Danzo? Nono panicked at the sight of the familiar scene, and he immediately became wary of Hyūga Teru. You should have at least a little confidence in your husband. After all, I've single-handedly defeated the Raikage and fought my way through the hidden cloud village countless times, a mere route. Can't I just raise my hand and subdue them? Hyūga Teru said, summoning several root ninjas and immediately giving the order. You all, quickly prepare the sedan chair and carry my wife away. Yes, the root ninjas responded in unison, disappearing instantly. This frightened Nono so much that her scalp tingled. How is this possible? How could they be so obedient? Am I dreaming? Nono slapped her cheeks, trying to wake herself up. Hyūga Teru took her hand. There's much more to surprise you. If you feel like you're dreaming now, your worldview will probably be blown away. Yakashi Nono was still struggling to comprehend what was happening. When 4 well-trained and skilled root ninjas arrived carrying a sedan chair, she was so stunned she nearly fainted. They really brought it. Are you asking me to get in? Hyūga Teru couldn't help but lift the sedan's curtain, inviting her in. You go in first, I'll follow you. With a mixture of doubt and trepidation, Nono climbed into the sedan chair. Hyūga Teru followed suit. It had to be said that these root ninjas were truly honest. The sedan chairs were a bit cramped. The two of them were so close together that Hyūga Teru suddenly lifted her onto his lap. You're still restless for such a short distance? Didn't you just tell us to go to Danzo's library? Nono was bewildered and worried. Entering the route and then going to Danzo's library felt like sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. But this lecher seemed unfazed, his true personality still unfettered. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but curl his lips. We're going, but first, let's set the mood and calm your uneasy heart. Nono was not going to believe it. He was indeed soothing her. But he was also pinching her constantly, making her feel uncomfortable. This was basically the prelude to doing something bad. Just behave yourself, we're going to see that person soon. Chapter 97 Danzo's Change. But Hyūga Teru remained relentless, restlessly trying to soothe her. This overbearing behavior hadn't happened once, and Nono sighed in panic. She had a vague feeling that Hyūga Teru might have sunk into some kind of despair, scrambling to savor the pleasures of life. But the sedan chair soon had to stop, as the path to the library was narrow. Sir, please come and seeing Danzo, bowing and trembling at the doorway, Yakashi Nono was stunned. He can't be real, right? This can't be real, right? Hyūga Teru hugged her and chuckled. I knew your reaction would be a bit exaggerated. Try to believe it's real. Hyūga Teru beckoned to Danzo. Come here, little Danzo. You're so ugly, you scared my wife, didn't you? Get down on the ground and kowtow to my wife and apologize. Kowtow, Yakashi Nono exclaimed. But Danzo remained incredibly respectful, quickly strode over to the two of them, and prostrated himself on the ground. Little Tuanzi is so ugly that he scared my wife. I'm kowtow to apologize to her. Bang, bang, bang. Danzo started kowtow without saying a word, hitting his forehead hard on the ground with a loud banging sound. To those who didn't know, it would be like hammering the ground. Seeing the once dark and fearsome leader now kowtow without any regard for his dignity. Even with Hyūga Teru holding her waist, Nono couldn't help but feel frightened and her legs went weak, almost fainting. This made Hyūga frown. "Alright, little Tuanzi, get out of here now. You scared my wife." Yes. Danzo didn't even stand up, but began to roll away on the ground, as if he didn't feel the dirty and hard ground at all. Watching Danzo roll away, Nono couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, then stared at Hyūga Teru in confusion. How did you do that? Can you tamper with his mind?" Hyūga Teru nodded without hiding anything. "Just consider it okay, but this ability can't be used casually. It has a long cooldown. It's understandable that such an amazing effect would have a long cooldown." Although Nono was still puzzled, she didn't ask any more questions. After all, the situation was very good. If Danzo's mind had truly been tampered with, it would be a great thing indeed. But, will this give others away? After all, his mind has been tampered with, so his behavior will definitely be a little different from before. Don't worry about that. You can treat him as a servant from now on. Hurry up and go in. I need to trouble you with something. Are you asking me something? Yes, hurry up and go in. Although I've taken over the route, I feel that many of its features are quite useful, but I don't fully understand them, so I thought of you. Besides the route's vast reserves of ninjutsu, what Hyūga Teru cared about most was its numerous sources of intelligence. However, he didn't understand much of it, and he had no idea how to start reforming it. He wanted to change the route's brutal practices, but he couldn't bear to see these intelligence lines destroyed. So, he decided to consult Nono, a professional. He knew exactly how to rectify these intelligence lines and whether there would be any problems. Hyūga Teru had some ideas, but his attention to detail was definitely not as good as Nono's. Nono then entered Danzo's study. After seeing the scrolls of intelligence and being informed of the intentions, Nono understood. Honey, you want to preserve these intelligence lines. Actually, they should. Because the root and the Anbu need to share certain information. If the root suddenly changes too much, it will alert the third Hokage, and then even more flaws will be exposed. Seeing the worry on Nono's face, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but comfort her. Don't worry too much. Just help me maintain it for a year or two. If there are no problems in a year or two, there will be no need to worry about anything after that. Hyūga Teru said this, actually waiting for the cooling of the Konoha. Although he had achieved the Eternal Eye, the cooling of Konoha couldn't be completely shortened by simply increasing his eye power. You have to remember that in the original novel, Shisu used Konoha. There were other mechanisms he wasn't aware of, leading to the seemingly 5-year cooldown period. It was a buggy ability, after all. However, he held great anticipation for speeding up the cooldown. Since the route had become one of the sign-in locations, and Danzo possessed Hashirama's cells, perhaps he could sign one out. With Hashirama's cells, the cooldown period should be significantly reduced. A year or two, Nono asked in surprise. A year or two should be no problem, but our fellow spies in Konoha might not be doing well. This was likely due to concern for the safety of the spies. While Hyūga Teru wasn't as compassionate, he felt compelled to look after Nono, with whom he had become very close. We could have them do their utmost to stay safe, or we could send someone to the spy village to replace the personnel in the high-risk area. While it wasn't a particularly good solution, and felt a bit self-serving, it still made Nono's eyes light up. Are you talking about Shijimi village? The spies there seem quite good, but I wonder if they'll be used up. After all, espionage is a high-risk profession, and some villages aren't very good at training them. Take, for example, Kumagakure and Iwagakure. They're not very good at training spies, and they often hire Shijimi spies. Especially after the war, Shijimi village probably received a lot of missions. There were probably a lot of deaths, which is why Nono was worried that no one would take the missions. Hyūga Teru, on the other hand, didn't worry too much, playing with Nono's light blonde hair. If you think you can, then give it a try. As for the money, don't worry. The route seems to be quite good at amassing wealth, with funds in the tens of billions. Even if you want to expand the orphanage, or even open a dedicated orphanage, you can get the money from here. That isn't possible. Nono's eyes flashed with shock, then he regained his composure. Let's put it to practical use. It would be nice to increase the benefits for the route members, since you're in charge from now on. They shouldn't be people without a past or future, right? Hyūga Teru nodded. Of course. Actually, we don't need to be so cruel in the future. I think we can use this money to make more money and prepare for the future ninja transformation. Ninja transformation? What can they do if they stop being ninjas? Well, that's something we need to discuss in detail. Perhaps you can also experience what other applications of ninjutsu can have after you stop being a ninja, Hyūga Teru said, slipping his hand into her clothes, as if to begin the so-called discussion. Chapter 98 The Bold Cloud Ninja. Naturally, Nono couldn't stop Hyūga Teru from discussing the issue. Perhaps it was because Danzo's hidden danger had been resolved, but she felt particularly relaxed. Of course, considering she already had the idea, they didn't delve too deeply into the discussion. After a brief academic exchange, the two returned to their focus on how to plan the Roots transformation. Aside from the spies, the rest of the Roots members were highly problematic. In fact, the spies were also quite problematic. Nono, for example, often couldn't sleep in the middle of the night and had to work herself to the bone to fall asleep. However, compared to the ordinary Root ninjas, whose individuality had been obliterated, the spies still had some normal interpersonal skills and could integrate into normal life. After a long period of hard work, the two finally finalized a preliminary plan for the Root's future development. While the Root ninjas weren't good at making money, they were quite adept at shady dealings. In the early stages of accumulating capital, any means necessary were necessary. Using the Root as the executioners of this capital accumulation effort would undoubtedly crush most competitors. However, they would no longer simply obey Hyūga Teru's orders. He didn't really want to devote much energy to business matters. In this world of booming economic growth, he preferred to be an investor, occasionally offering unique insights and steering the direction of development. Remember, in Boruto, someone made a fortune from trams. There's still a long way to go before Boruto premieres, and with careful management, perhaps they could control most of the profitable industries. Shortly after signing in at the Root and obtaining the Senju Sage body, the time had finally arrived for the Hidden Cloud Village to sign the peace treaty. Everything was proceeding smoothly. However, true to the demeanor of a great nation, the Third Hokage didn't rush to begin the treaty, instead enthusiastically instructing the envoy. This ensured the Hidden Cloud Village envoy stayed in Konoha for a long, well-fed and comfortable stay. Ning, there's no need to be so polite. Forget about visiting your home or anything like that, Itachi said, but he continued to walk beside Neji. Neji couldn't help but look frustrated. Brother Itachi, we've studied together for so long and are so familiar with each other. Can't we just be guests? Although Itachi still wanted to refuse, he was immediately choked by Neji's pitiful plea. Unable to resist Neji's eager gaze, Itachi silently nodded and agreed. The two of them walked towards the Hyūga clan's territory. However, when they reached a quiet alley, the passage was suddenly blocked by two burly ninjas. Who are you? Why are you stopping us here? Itachi immediately stepped in front of Neji, staring coldly at the man who suddenly appeared. The man smiled cruelly, and the next second, electricity flashed around him, and a strong murderous aura swept over Itachi and Neji like a gust of wind. You want to meddle in other people's business, but you've got the wrong person. We must take this girl away today. Neji looked at the man with some fear, and couldn't help but grab Itachi's sleeve. Brother Itachi, let's run. This is my Hyūga clan's territory. If we run out into the streets, someone will see us, but before Neji could turn, another man emerged from the entrance behind him, pulling out a glowing kunai from his sleeve and sneering. Run? None of you can escape today. You'd better follow us obediently, or you'll be in trouble. Itachi, holding Neji behind him, pulled several shurikens from his ninja tool bag and said firmly, I won't let you take her unless you can walk over my dead body. Instantly, Itachi's eyes turned scarlet, like the eyes of a carnivorous beast in the dark night. The two men were startled. It's the Sharingan? I didn't expect to encounter the Sharingan when I came to grab the Byakugan. To be able to open the Sharingan at this age, he must be an incredible genius. It seems that he is very lucky today. Yes, we have taken away the strongest bloodline of Konoha. In a few years, we will have the confidence to compete with Konoha. The two did not hide their identities at all, as if they had already made up their minds. After hearing what they said, Itachi probably understood who these two people were. You from Kumagakure came to us to sign a peace agreement, and you also want to attack the people in our village. Aren't you afraid of provoking a war? The man with a bandage on his head and one eye exposed could not help but sneer. Provoke a war? If it weren't for our village's unique situation and the numerous benefits your village has offered us, we in Hyūga wouldn't be afraid of it. If you dare to provoke a war, then we will fight. We in Hyūga have never feared war. It's your Konoha third Hokage who's terrified, trying to please us in Hyūga. I guess even if we kidnap you, they'll still give in. Itachi couldn't help but feel a little angry. You guys are going too far. With a cold shout, he quickly fired shurikens in 2 directions. Tisk tisk, you missed your shuriken the first time you launched. The Uchiha genius is no more than, whoosh. The sound of the shurikens piercing the air suddenly became sharper, and the shuriken suddenly changed direction in an extremely strange way. The 2 Hyūga ninjas had no time to react. With a swish, the shurikens pierced their arms. Ouch! The 2 cried out in pain, but since they were in Hyūga territory, they didn't dare to make a loud noise. Ning, run up there quickly. I'll hold them back. Neji immediately hesitated, looking at Itachi eagerly. No, Itachi-ni. They're all official ninjas, and their aura is terrifying. Leaving you here alone will only lead to disaster, Itachi insisted. Even if you stay, it won't change anything. Better to run back and call for help, or they'll capture us both. Neji wanted to stay, but the 2 Hyūga ninjas, their eyes bloodshot, rushed over. You 2 brats, don't even think about running. The man, covered in arcs of electricity, was in front of Itachi in an instant, stabbing him with kunai with rapidity. Clang. Dazzling sparks suddenly burst out in the alley, illuminating the faces of Itachi and the attacker. Veins bulged in the man's cheeks. Though he thrust at Itachi with one dangling arm, his other hand, incredibly strong, nearly pinned him to the ground. Electric arcs emanating from his body quickly spread to his kunai. Wow! Seeing the situation was dire, Itachi quickly stepped back, creating distance between them, but the enemy from the other direction was already closing in. Hurry, Ning. I can't fight with you here. Neji could see that Itachi was constantly watching out for him. While he considered himself somewhat capable, he had witnessed a Hyūga ninja's attack just now. The difference in physical fitness couldn't be made up for by his skill. Itachi, be careful. I'll bring someone to rescue you as soon as possible. Neji gritted his teeth and quickly stepped onto several wooden boxes stacked against the wall. He stepped back and forth between the 2 walls, quickly climbing to a higher point. Chapter 99, Annihilation of the Cloud Ninja. None of you dare leave. The ninja, about to lunge at Itachi, suddenly paused, hurling his kunai at Neji. Clang. The kunai was halfway through its flight when a shuriken swiftly struck it from the side. This strange and unexpected moment of interception made the man immediately realize that Itachi had been responsible. However, he wasn't overly angry at this moment. A hint of a bloodthirsty smile even curled up at the corner of his mouth. Another man, swiftly transforming into a streak of blue light, arrived behind Itachi. His face froze, his entire body stabbing at Itachi's chest. A look of disbelief crossed his face as he stared at the kunai piercing his chest. Jinjutsu? Could it be that time? Hearing the ninja leader's sudden shortness of breath, the other Hyūga ninja, who had assumed Itachi could be quickly dispatched, completely gave up on pursuing Neji and instead stared at Itachi with a serious expression. A hint of fear lingered within him. He knew the ninja leader wouldn't die so easily, and he probably still had the strength to fight again. But the ninja leader had already been struck, proving this Uchiha boy was no pushover. He tightened his kunai and returned his attention to Itachi. Itachi cautiously approached between them, roughly equal distance apart, a sword in each hand. The Hyūga ninja then realized that while he was wary of the other, he was also wary of him. Given that, a battle-hardened man like him had no reason to lose. Captain, let's go together. Cripple him and take him away. Okay, I'll give you a chance. Make sure you take him back. The Hyūga ninja leader, bleeding profusely from the kunai, gritted his teeth, unsheathed his kunai, and regained his wolfish nature. The 2 men had no ill intentions, and their ferocity was even greater than before, causing Itachi to look grave. Swish, swish, swish. Several kunai whistled through the air. Then the Hyūga ninja leader charged fearlessly, his eyes closed, unbelievably, clearly not intending to give Itachi another chance to cast his illusion. Swish. The Hyūga ninja leader immediately stabbed Itachi, but he was already panting, as if he would die at any moment. But the feeling of the full kunai piercing Itachi's body suddenly became extremely weak, and then all restraints were gone, as if stabbing into the air. Wow! The rough, hoarse caw of crows instantly filled the alley. Another ninja noticed this and his expression changed drastically. After a moment of frustration, he quickly formed hand seals. Lightning release. Thunder net, Zilla. A lightning whip like a silk thread suddenly shot out, quickly interweaving into a vast lightning net, soaring at a breakneck speed towards the crows in the sky. As if aware of it, the crows quickly gathered together and formed Itachi again. With incredibly fast hands, he formed a few hand seals and took a deep breath. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu, boom. A huge ball of blazing flames flew out and directly hit the lightning net, stopping it in midair. But the flames suddenly surged, shattering their original form. The Hyūga Teru ninja, his face horrified and his body covered in burns, flashed with startling arcs of electricity as he sprinted towards Itachi. Damn brat, die! The delay had already lasted long enough, and a considerable commotion had been created. The Hyūga Teru ninja could no longer believe that abducting Konoha's blood-stained genius was even remotely possible. Killing the genius before him was the wisest option now. Thump. The moment the kunai entered Itachi's body, a hard thud rang out. A puff of smoke vanished, and a wooden stake was pierced by the Hyūga Teru ninja's kunai. Buzz! Several shurikens flew from the flanks, attacking at angles that surrounded the Hyūga Teru ninja. Sizzle, 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 the shuriken struck the Hyūga Teru ninja with a resounding, piercing flush. The Hyūga Teru ninja was soon covered in blood, and his breathing became extremely labored. But he remained standing. He leaned against the wall, turned around, and pointed at Itachi to his companions. There's no chance, for the future of the village. Kill him, boss. The remaining Hyūga Teru ninja burst into tears, their eyes turning red the moment the leader died. Kid, give me your life. The Hyūga Teru ninja took a few quick steps to close the distance, then stabbed Itachi's face with a kunai, piercing the air like a fine arc of electricity. Clank. 2 shurikens flew close to the Hyūga Teru ninja, but were instantly cut in half. However, Itachi had now gained considerable distance and pulled more shurikens from his ninja tool bag. Swish, swish, swish. The shurikens flew out, still flying in their usual non-straight paths. They circled the Hyūga Teru ninja, waiting for their chance to strike at the right angle. But having already faced such attacks so many times, how could he possibly be hit again? He dodged the shurikens and immediately pursued. But Itachi didn't continue to draw his weapon to fight. Instead, he stretched out his arms, his scarlet eyes dancing swiftly in his sockets. Rinnegan controls the windmill. San no Tachi, with a swift, rapid sound, the steel wire tightened. The Hyūga Teru ninja dodged the shuriken and suddenly flew back in a strange arc. Clang 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 clang. Caught off guard, the Hyūga Teru ninja used his kunai to resist the entanglement of the steel wire, even attempting to cut it. But the wire spun so swiftly that before he could exert any force, he was bound tightly. Damn it! Don't think this is the end. The man quickly formed hand seals with a slightly awkward gesture, and blue arcs of electricity immediately appeared on his hands. He seemed to be trying to increase the sharpness of the kunai, or to conduct electricity through the wire, attempting to electrocute Itachi. But Itachi, as if anticipating this, released the wire and quickly formed hand seals with his hands. Fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu. A long, fiery dragon instantly erupted from Itachi's mouth, striking the Hyūga Teru ninja at breakneck speed, extinguishing the arcs of electricity from his hand. The blazing flames instantly engulfed him, forcing him to collapse onto the ground, writhing in agony. Painful howls rang out. Even after the flames were extinguished, the Hyūga Teru ninja's agony persisted. Soon, the alley, including the rooftops, was filled with ninjas in white kimonos. Each one held a murderous aura, their demeanor fierce. However, upon seeing one Hyūga Teru ninja dead and the other wounded, they all expressed immense surprise. This young man, single-handedly killed 2 Hyūga Teru ninjas, what a feat. I didn't expect he'd already taken care of them before we even arrived, the Uchiha clan. To think there's such a gifted young man. As the crowd drew closer, exclamations of amazement continued. A small, charming figure suddenly emerged from the crowd. Brother Itachi, are you okay? Neji squeezed to the front with great concern, came to Itachi's side, and began to check on him. Itachi couldn't help but touch Neji's head and smiled. Of course I'm fine, aren't I? Chapter 100 The Power of the Thousand-Handed Immortal. After being stunned for a long time by Itachi's performance, Neji treated him even more favorably and invited him to his home as a guest. After all, he was his savior, and no amount of gratitude could be overstated. However, Word quickly spread of the Kumagakure ninjas' attempt to abduct the Uchiha and Hyūga geniuses. In the conference room at the Hokage building, the third Hokage and several advisors, including Danzo, sat down to discuss the Kumagakure envoy's situation. The Kumagakure people are so audacious. How dare they do such a thing? Uchiha was the first to roar in anger. Midamon inside upon hearing this. We finally waited for Kumagakure to negotiate peace, but now they've done something like this. I'm afraid the talks will be delayed again, the third Hokage agreed in a deep voice. Yes, the Kumagakure people have a bad temper. The talks will probably be delayed. How to remedy the situation is also a question. Upon hearing what the other three said, Danzo said unhappily. Since you think it's irreparable, then let's not do it. Kumagakure dares to continue the war, and it certainly won't be unilaterally advantageous, but the village is already utterly tired of the war. If it continues, there will probably be widespread resentment. Besides, the last two villages haven't signed the peace treaty. If we can't sign this time, the village will lose faith in us, the Sandaime spoke melancholy. Midokado nodded in agreement. If it weren't for the Nine Tails Rebellion, the Third Shinobi World War would have ended long ago. While the village is extremely weak now, it's not easily bullied. If we can break the current stalemate, the war should be over soon. After all, we've suffered heavy losses, and so have the other villages. Now it's all a test of national strength, to see who can hold out the longest. Uchiha nodded slightly. Actually, Kumagakure is the most stubborn. If Kumagakure can be defeated, the other two villages won't be too much of a problem. Danzo took over with a gloomy expression. That being said, are you going to compromise with Kumagakure again this time? Can compromising with Kumagakure really buy peace? Although Danzo was under control, he still had experience and knowledge. He was instructed to steer the conversation in his usual firm and unyielding manner. At this moment, the other three didn't notice Danzo's strangeness at all, believing him to be the same Danzo, his every move adamant and sinister. However, their disapproval of their compromise also made them very uncomfortable. For the sake of peace, even a little compromise is necessary. Kumagakure was at fault this time. If we can still forgive them, we might make them feel embarrassed to refuse peace talks, Uchiha said. Midokado didn't deny it. Sometimes, face is very useful. We can forgive Kumagakure for doing something so shabby right now, but if they go back on their word and start a war, they will lose the trust of the entire continent. Even if they are tough, they must consider the consequences. The Sanda nodded. I thought so too. It's better to endure a little injustice for now than to continue the stalemate. Actually, the Uchiha and Hyūga are still relatively intact, so it's not like they've suffered much. Danzo couldn't help but sneer. It's not like Kumagakure has been playing rogue for a long time. What if they push their luck further, or even turn against us? Will we continue to compromise? This was quite possible. After all, that's how it unfolded in the original story. After the Kumagakure's ninja leader was killed, the Konoha High Command simply handed over Niji's father as a scapegoat in order to compromise. Although this hadn't happened yet, the others were well aware of Kumagakure's temperament. While Kumagakure boasted unity and beauty within its own village, it was unpredictable and uncompromising to the outside world. What Danzo said was not only possible, but also highly probable. Like a thunderbolt, it struck the three of them in the heart. After a long silence, they finally came to their senses. The third Hokage pondered. While there's a real chance they'll go back on their word, we can't give up hope just yet, can we? War will only breed more hatred. If neither side relents, both sides will suffer heavy losses. We're overwhelmed, and I'm sure Kumagakure is in a similar situation. So we'd better seize this opportunity, or else many more people in the village will die. Yes, opportunities are rare. If we don't seize them, we don't know when we'll get another chance. Hearing Uchiha's lament, Danzo couldn't help but sneer. If you all mean this, why bother asking me here? Can't you three just discuss this among yourselves? With that, Danzo turned and left, his face sullen. The remaining three looked at each other in bewilderment. After a moment's silence, they couldn't help but sigh. After all these years, Danzo is still the same Danzo, but ultimately, he's doing it for the good of the village, the Sandaime lamented. Midamano followed suit. Yes, although his opinions always differ from ours. Ultimately, it's for Konoha's sake. The village is so weak right now, anything else is impossible. Uchiha nodded involuntarily. Danzo should know that himself. After all, We've been partners for a long time and know each other well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have argued with us so quickly this time and then left. Root base. Danzo's study. Now, cries of pleasure emanated continuously. Ever since acquiring the Senju Sage body, Hyūga Teru has no shortage of chakra, and his energy seems to have increased thousands of times. 9,999 times is still thousands of times. He feels suffocated without some vigorous exercise every day. The root base, where the wooden figure resides, is perfectly safe and secluded, allowing him to vent his excess energy. A high-pitched voice echoed, and then there was a knock on the door. He held the entire root under his tight control. While the root members remained silent, they had learned some of Hyūga Teru's taboos after receiving his orders. After getting dressed, Hyūga Teru left the room. Master Teru, I have something important to report. As soon as he left, he saw Danzo kneeling on the ground, his expression extremely serious. Hyūga Teru glanced at Danzo lazily and said calmly, "Is it about the Hyūga Teru ninja? How's the situation?" Danzo lowered his head. "As you expected, the third Hokage and his men are ready to compromise with Hyūga Teru. Oh, that's easy to imagine. If Hyūga Teru pushes too far and makes outrageous demands, you can suggest that I negotiate with them. I understand." After Danzo left, Hyūga Teru returned to the study and continued playing flying chess with Yukido. Yukido was constantly under control, but that didn't mean she couldn't learn. On the contrary, seemingly due to her intense concentration, she had a very strong learning ability and played flying chess very well, occasionally even engaging in a back and forth with Hyūga Teru. Of course, in terms of energy, she couldn't possibly match the Thousand Hands Sage. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.